Chapter 292. When Lu Qing took his clothes and was about to take a shower, Qi Fong knocked on the door and came in. She smiled and said, "Cheng, it's great that you won the youth tournament this time. It's unique in Xioshan. Why don't we set up a few tables and treat everyone to a meal to celebrate?" "Mom, that's not necessary." Lu Qing got a headache when he heard this. Qi Fong glared at him. "Why not? If we don't set up a few tables, people will talk behind our backs. You don't want to socialize with your relatives and friends. You look down on us after winning the championship. Others can gossip as much as they want, but I don't care." Lu Qing complained in his heart. His mind started to work quickly, and he put on a smile and said, "Mom, people will only gossip if you hold a banquet. Think about it, if you go to other people's banquets, will you give them a red packet? Everyone's money doesn't grow on trees. Of course we should save as much as possible. I just held a graduation banquet last year, and a championship banquet this year. Who knows how many championships I'll win in the future? Do you want to hold a banquet and collect money every time? Then people will complain to our family. It's not like getting married. We can take it back in the future." While making excuses, he put his hands on his mom's shoulders and walked out with her. It didn't matter what he said. He just wanted to show his firm attitude and give his mom a way out. Qi Fong was confused. She glanced at her son and took a deep breath. "You're right. Then we won't set up a banquet. I'll ask your dad to order dozens of boxes of championship cakes and share them with everyone." It was a custom in Xioshan that there would be corresponding cakes for celebrations, such as birthday cakes, wedding cakes, championship cakes, 1,000 gold cakes, dragon phoenix cakes, and so on. "Okay, let's do that," Lu Qing answered with a smile. The next morning in Backwater Lake Park. "You convinced your mother just like that?" Yenjika's bright eyes looked at him and asked with great interest. She was wearing the female martial arts suit of the Longhu Club, which happened to be a couple with Lu Qing. Lu Qing laughed. "It can't be considered persuasion. Isn't this the confidence that Coach Yin mentioned? Ever since I succeeded in practicing martial arts and was able to make money, I have become more confident in front of my mother, and am able to insist on my ideas. My mother may also feel that I have grown up, matured, and is no longer a child. She will ask for my opinion on many things and depends on my attitude. If it was in the past, she would never ask me. She would only say, 'Cheng, we will hold a banquet to celebrate in a few days. Remember to be polite and diligent.' It was the same situation at this time last year." Yenjika smiled and said, "Do you feel like you're in charge of your own affairs?" "I don't like men who are like children who haven't been weaned. They always listen to their elders and don't have their own ideas," she muttered in her mind. "If that's the case, the relationship between mother and daughter-in-law will be very difficult in the future. Luckily, Cheng is not a mommy's boy. What am I thinking? Bah, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. Who is his daughter-in-law?" Taking note of his little fairy's attitude in this regard, Lu Qing pretended to panic and said, "What should I do? I think you won't like me anymore." "Ah." Yenjika blinked with a blank face. "Because I always listen to Coach Yen and don't have my own ideas." While saying this, Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh. "Pfft, you're so funny." Yenjika also couldn't help but laugh out loud. She almost couldn't catch her breath and couldn't help blushing. "Haha, you have to remember what you just said." Dozens of seconds later, she recovered. She slightly raised her eyes and glanced at her boyfriend. Her lips opened and closed, but she didn't say anything. "What's wrong?" Lu Qing asked with concern. Yenjika bit her lip and frankly said, "I was worried that you would be unhappy because of Coach Shi. Well, I was worried that you would be depressed because of it. Just now, I saw that you could still joke and be so funny, so I was relieved. I almost blurted it out, but I thought it would be a sore spot, so I held back." Lu Qing reached out and hugged the girl. He sighed and smiled. "Actually, I'm still a little depressed, but I don't want to infect the people around me with this feeling. I'll try my best not to let it affect my usual state, and try to turn it all into motivation for cultivation." This was also the will to protect. "I can feel it. If we hadn't seen each other for a few days before, you wouldn't have been able to resist not kissing me before morning exercises." Yenjika rolled her eyes. half teasing and half soothing Lu Cheng's mood. Do you think I'm not lecherous enough? Lu Cheng calmed down and laughed. He was about to lower his head when the girl pushed him away. Humph, did I say yes? Hurry up and practice. Work hard. Yenjika pursed her lips and ran a few steps away with a smile. Lu Cheng didn't insist. After a few minutes of conversation with Ke, he did become cheerful again. Yenjika put on airs and looked up. She thought of something and said, Cheng, that little girl Song Li asked us to treat her. Why don't we invite Sister Jingjing, Shuang Shuang, and Fatty Jiang from your side to thank them for covering up for us and not telling anyone about it? Okay, I'll call Fatty Jiang at noon and fix a time. He keeps asking me to treat him. Lu Cheng didn't find this kind of social interaction troublesome. This wasn't a social interaction, but a bonding between friends. After discussing this matter, the two devoted themselves to their own training. Yenjika practiced Meteor Force both internally and externally. Lu Cheng repeated his daily homework and felt the changes in his body slowly breaking through the limit. Finally, he comprehended Prairie Fire Picture and Zhurong Picture. Without the help of the Jindan, his second attempt was no doubt fruitless. But he didn't feel annoyed or depressed, because this was the normal progress. He couldn't rely on the Jindan for everything. Besides, his master also said that now he had to take it slow and lay a solid foundation. He couldn't rush to practice the Dan stage. It would be good enough if he could grasp some of the essence and charm of the two pictures before the summer vacation. Lu Cheng withdrew his thoughts and sank his spirit into the picture scroll again. The flame soared and was suppressed by the Zhurong picture. Just like his state of mind, the burning flame of desire to improve and help his master as soon as possible was firmly suppressed by reason and willpower. Burning uncontrollably would only harm oneself. Vaguely, he felt that he might be able to master Zhurong Force in less than a month. After eating with Yenjika, Lu Cheng returned home. He took a shower and changed his clothes. Then he took a taxi to Gushan Martial Arts School. As soon as he entered the gate, the receptionist's eyes lit up. She quickly stood up and said with a bright smile, "Hello, Coach Lu. You're back to work so soon?" Her smile was a little timid, not as lively as usual. It was full of awe. "School will start soon." Lu Cheng smiled casually. He didn't show any condescension. While talking, he had already passed the front desk and walked to the field where the VIP class was. "Hello, Coach Lu." "Morning, Coach Lu." The summer vacation class and the disciple class stood in line and greeted him loudly as if they were welcoming him. Was this organized by someone? Lu Cheng shook his head with a smile. He saw Chu Weikai, Dai Linfeng, and Qin Rue in front of him. He saw Wu Ting, Zhang Qiufan, and the other VIP class students behind them. Wu Ting noticed his gaze and looked around angrily. She asked everyone to line up quickly and shouted in unison, "Hello, Sir Lu." Their voices were loud and full of excitement and pride. "Don't think that I'll let you rest because you welcome me like this. If you slacked off at home in the past 10 days, I'll let you practice." Lu Cheng stood in front of the line and said with a smile. Wu Ting giggled and said, "With Sir Lu as an example, we're all practicing diligently. Sir Lu, you're the leader of the young people in our province. Why don't you teach us some powerful martial arts?" She had learned how to use the words of the elders. "Powerful martial arts? You're still young. If I teach you now, you'll probably have a strong back and a bare waist." Lu Cheng laughed. Wu Ting, Zhang Qiufan, and the other girls were obviously in a dilemma. They hesitated and said, Then forget it." A strong back and a bare waist? Just thinking about it was scary. Lu Cheng gave them pointers one by one, and asked them to stand properly. Then he looked at the three beside him and said, "Club Master Chu, are you looking for me?" "It's not a big deal." Chu Weikai smiled and changed the topic. "Fortunately, you live in the modern world. If it were in the past, you'd have a long line of people coming to challenge you every day after you won the championship and your reputation spread. But now it was the age of information. Everyone could see a martial artist's performance in a competition through videos. They had a general idea of his actual level. It was clear whether he could be challenged or not. In this generation of martial artists in Xing province, those who were capable of challenging Lu Cheng had all participated in the youth tournament. Naturally, no one would do such a thing in a short time. Lu Qing glanced at Dai Linfeng and Qin Rui and suddenly laughed. Club Master Chu, are you saying that someone wants to challenge me? How dare I? It's just that my humble disciple wants to ask you for some advice. Chu Weikai looked at Dai Linfeng with a smile. Dai Linfeng smiled bitterly and said, I just want to know how big the gap is between you and me now so that I can set a goal. No matter how many videos he watched, it was not as good as a real fight. Dai Linfeng was proud. He didn't participate in the past when his disciples paid Lu Qing for one-on-one instruction. But after watching the youth tournament, his pride had completely disappeared. Lu Qing glanced at Qin Rui and the others and smiled. Okay, let's practice a little. Don't overdo it. Okay, please give me some advice. Dai Linfeng put on a respectful posture. When he stabilized his posture, Lu Qing suddenly took a step forward. He gathered his qi, blood, spirit, and force and then released them immediately. Bam! His right arm was like an iron whip, hitting down on Dai Linfeng's head. Dai Linfeng didn't have time to dodge. He raised his arms to block. He didn't want to make a mistake, but he didn't want to make a mistake. However, as soon as they touched, he felt a surge of majestic force. The bones in his arms creaked and were about to break. They would really break. Not only would they break, but the remaining force would also break his sternum. He was seriously injured in one move. Is this the gap between us? Dai Linfeng suddenly felt his arms become lighter. The majestic force disappeared mysteriously as if it had never existed. Lu Qing pulled back his right arm without any reluctance. He put his hands behind his back and smiled slightly. With the internal training method of special training, you have a chance to reach the professional 9th pin before the end of the year. Dai Linfeng was shocked and stunned. He stared at Lu Qing in a daze, as if he didn't know who he was. Before this, he only thought that Lu Qing was a very powerful young man. Chapter 293. Dai Linfeng's feelings were very subtle, and couldn't be accurately described with a simple sentence. What did he mean by only feeling that Lu Qing was a very powerful young man? He meant that he felt that they were about the same age, and there was no generation gap between them. No matter how powerful and scary Lu Qing was, he was still a young man and not much different from him. It was like when he was still a student, he would envy the top students and not dare to provoke them. He would feel a bit of inferiority, but he wouldn't think that Lu Qing was beyond the level of a student. But now Lu Qing seemed to have a temperament that didn't belong to his age. It reminded him of the first time he met his master, Chu Weikai. Dai Linfeng's heart was filled with complex emotions. He kept silent until he reached the stairs. After climbing 2 steps, Chu Weikai suddenly stopped. With his back facing the ground below, he sighed and said, Linfeng, just like what Lu Qing said, with this special training, your chances of reaching the professional 9th pin are very high. You might only need a year or so. But if you want to go further, it's going to be difficult. If you're not willing to stay at this level, then go out and try your luck. You can't raise a dragon in a pond. But master, the martial arts club. Dai Linfeng blurted out, as if he was really considering this question. Chu Weikai put his hand on the handrail and laughed. Don't worry, your junior brothers are improving very fast. I'm not that old. You don't have to worry about retreating. If you really can't make it, then go back to the martial arts club. I'll always leave you a meal here. Qin Rui felt a lump in his throat and sighed. Regardless of whether Chu Weikai was squeezing his disciple's labor, he had done his duty as a master. When I can meditate, master the internal training method, and reach the professional 9th pin, should I go out and have a try? Dai Linfeng didn't speak. After a long silence, he gave an irrelevant answer. Master, what level do you think Lu Qing can reach? Chu Weikai walked up slowly and said, no matter what level he can reach in the future, his current level is something you can't reach in your lifetime. I'm not trying to discourage you, but you can't reach for what's beyond your grasp. You have to have a practical and accurate goal. As for Lu Qing, if nothing unexpected happens, I believe he will not stop at the Dan stage. Dai Linfeng and Qin Rui didn't say anything. They understood what their master was implying. Lu Qing would be the first mighty one with physical invulnerability in Xioshan. This was not a compliment at the beginning of summer vacation. but the conclusion of more than a month of observation and experience. Even though he was already a promising 7th pin expert, Lu Qing didn't put on airs. He still seriously corrected the most basic moves of Wu Ting and the others. In his free time, he seized every minute and second to temper himself. The sun was high in the sky and it was almost noon. He took out his phone, looked at the time, and clapped his hands. All right, that's all for today's training. Everyone really didn't slack off before. You deserve to be praised. Before he could finish his sentence, and before Wu Ting could say anything, the long-term students and inner disciples who had been paying attention to them all rushed over and surrounded them. Brother Lu, I'll book another 2 hours of private tutoring. Coach Lu, I want to pay. I want to be coached alone. In the midst of the clamor, there were at least 30 people who made requests. What a great opportunity it was to be able to receive the guidance of the #1 young martial artist in the province. Even if they didn't learn anything, they would feel proud just by talking about it. And it was only 800 yuan an hour. It was like picking it up for free. Which mighty one in the dance stage would be so cheap? More importantly, no mighty one in the dance stage would be so free as to do this kind of private tutoring. As long as Coach Lu agreed, they were willing to pay more. The inner disciples who didn't ask for Lu Cheng's private tutoring before the youth tournament were heartbroken. They didn't have a high income, so they deeply felt the price change. That was even more exaggerated than the increase of housing prices. They could only ask for money from their families. Lu Cheng was shocked. He roughly counted the number of people and felt that he couldn't agree. He didn't want to lose time for training, accompanying Ke, and spending time with his parents just for money. He pressed his hands down to stop the commotion and said calmly, "Everyone is limited to 1 hour of private tutoring. The price will be announced tomorrow. Anyway, it won't be cheap. Think about it carefully. Is it necessary? Is it worth it?" His tone was calm and peaceful. His voice was neither high nor low, but everyone present heard it clearly. They couldn't help but quiet down and make way for him. At this time, Ding Yanba in the crowd held back his excitement and took a deep breath. He decided to do something that would make him the center of attention. He shouted at the top of his voice, trying to please, "Brother Lu Cheng." With a swoosh, all eyes were fixed on his face, full of surprise. When Lu Cheng nodded and said a few words of encouragement, the surprise turned into envy, making Ding Yanba's blood boil. He felt a little tipsy and comfortable to the extreme. Haha, this is my brother Lu Cheng. After he won the youth tournament, a few of my classmates who thought he was my cousin started to fawn over me. Lu Cheng didn't talk much with Ding Yanba. He took his phone and went back to the locker room to change his clothes. Yen Zhika had sent him the time she had discussed with Song Li and others. It would be tomorrow or the night after tomorrow. She asked Lu Cheng to ask Jiang Fei when they were free. If they were not available, they could adjust it later. While walking out of the martial arts club, Lu Cheng dialed a number. "Hello, Fatty Jiang. I said I would treat you. You can choose tomorrow or the night after tomorrow." Jiang Fei said in confusion. "Cheng, why do I feel something is wrong? I don't need to urge you and you've taken the initiative to treat me. Just one word. Are you coming or not?" Lu Cheng said with a smile. Come. Tomorrow night, in case something bad happens." Jiang Fei said decisively. "Okay, I'll tell you the specific location when we decide on it." Lu Cheng hung up the phone and called old Cheng Chili. Cheng Chili was playing a game when he heard the vibration of his phone. He turned his head and saw the name Cheng on the flashing screen. He was stunned. After a few seconds of hesitation, he picked up the phone and chose to answer. "Hello, Cheng?" When Cheng Chili shouted out this name, the image of Lu Cheng's dazzling figure in the arena suddenly appeared in his mind, making him feel ashamed of his own inferiority. "Old Cheng, haven't you been asking me to treat you all the time? How about tomorrow night? Ku and I will treat you all together," Lu Cheng said with a smile. Cheng Chili was about to say yes, but suddenly he felt an indescribable irritation and depression. He seemed to be out of breath and blurted out subconsciously, I'm going to Grandpa's house tomorrow. I haven't been there for a long time. You promised." During this time, whenever he thought of Chiu Hailin and Chao Leilei's praise of Lu Cheng and thought of his friend's prestige, he did not want to go out and talk with others about it. How about the night after tomorrow? Lu Qing asked. Ching Chili opened his right hand and said without a smile, I have to stay at Grandpa's house for a few days. Hee hee, you don't have to accommodate me. Let's meet alone and have a meal. Okay, see you later. Lu Qing said with a little regret. When the call ended, Cheng Chili put the phone in front of him, pushed his glasses and looked at it quietly. Before leaving the martial arts school, Lu Qing found Qin Rui and called Tao Xiaofei to confirm his treat for the next night. Then he took a taxi to the backwater Lake Villa area and met up with Yan Zhika. They went to the newly opened Old Tan's private kitchen for lunch, and to try the dishes. Are you with Jiang Fei, Qin Rui and Tao Xiaofei? Yan Zhika made the final confirmation so that they could reserve seats in advance. Yes. Lu Qing nodded. Yan Zhika looked up and suddenly smiled. I have a good impression of Qin Rui. He is tall and strong and likes to come to our class like Cheng Tao. At that time, I didn't know you existed at all. I didn't expect that my future boyfriend would be in the next class, and I didn't pay attention to him at all. It was quite amazing when he thought about it. Yeah, I didn't expect you to be my girlfriend at that time. Lu Qing also sighed with emotion. Fate was really a wonderful thing. As the two of them talked, they interlocked their fingers and smiled at each other. Maybe this was fate. They didn't know each other for 3 years in high school, but now they were holding hands. They spent the lunch in such a warm atmosphere. When it was almost over, Lu Qing received a call from his senior sister, Shi Yuejian. Hello, senior sister, what's the matter? He was a little worried that something would happen to his master when he went to the secret military base. Shi Yuejian's voice was full of joy. Good news. Lu Qing relaxed immediately and said with a smile. What good news? Yan Zhika was quietly listening to their conversation, resting her chin on her hand. The military has been doing some experiments with your master's cells. Although there is no progress in the main body, they have made a byproduct that seems to be able to suppress your master's injury. This time they tried it and it really worked. Your master can live a few more years. Shi Yuejian couldn't hide her excitement. Lu Qing burst out with joy and said excitedly, Really? Really? Why would I lie to you? Shi Yuejian answered with a smile. That's good, that's good. Lu Qing turned to look at Yan Zhika and conveyed his happiness to her. After hanging up the phone, he didn't hide his happiness and told his girlfriend the good news like a child. That's great. Am I right? Science and technology are improving, so are martial arts. As long as we are alive, there is hope. As long as we are alive, we can wait for change. Yan Zhika said happily and complacently. It was like AIDS. When he was a child, it seemed to be an incurable disease. Once he got it, he could only wait for death. But now, as long as he controlled it well, he could almost live to the end of his life like a normal person. This was the power of progress and development. Coach Yan is indeed full of the brilliance of wisdom. If it weren't for the fact that they were still in someone else's restaurant and his girlfriend wasn't wearing a knee-length skirt, he would have lifted Ku up high. Both of them had a great appetite and ate another bowl of rice. Yan Zhika rubbed her bulging belly and said with satisfaction, Where are we going this afternoon? Lu Qing thought for a while and suggested, Let's go to my house? Look at my old photos. Okay. Yan Zhika didn't object and looked forward to it. Chapter 294. The car stopped at the entrance of the community. Lu Qing got off first and opened the umbrella for his little fairy to block out the afternoon sun. Yan Zhika squinted and looked around. When her boyfriend closed the door, she said with great interest, Is this your community? It looks like the hospital we used to live in. She was wearing a white t-shirt, a black knee-length gauze skirt, and a pair of red and black sandals. Her fingernails were pink and healthy. She had the beauty of youth and the seductiveness of maturity. Communities in that era are all similar. Lu Qing agreed casually. He was about to hold her hand and walk to the gate of the community. Yan Zhika retracted her hand and rolled her eyes at him. Didn't you say that 9 out of 10 uncles and aunts in the community know you? If you hold my hand like this, your mom will know in 5 minutes that you brought a girl home. Less than 5 minutes. Lu Qing answered with embarrassment. He was just used to it. Then he laughed. Actually, it doesn't matter to me. My mom will know. I'm bringing such a good wife home. She'll be so happy. He showed his calm attitude. Ku is such a good girlfriend. Why can't I meet people? I can't wait to show off and let everyone know. Unfortunately, he had to consider the feelings of Ku's family. Yenjika glanced at his face and hummed. Who's your wife going home with you? I'm not going. Yes, yes, yes. Girlfriend, girlfriend. Lu Qing looked at the entrance of the community. How about this? I'll go in first and see if there's anyone home. Then I'll show you how to find my home. Okay. Yenjika looked up with her bright eyes. She couldn't think of another good idea. Lu Qing passed the umbrella to her and walked quickly into the community. The neighbors he met along the way all greeted him with smiles. On the way back home, it was quiet. His parents had gone to work. Only then did he relax completely. He walked to the balcony and looked down at the gate and the roads. Go straight through the door and turn right when you reach the 4th building. Yes, it's the place where people are playing chess. Okay, stop, stop. Turn left, turn left. Do you see 8? It's this building, on the 5th floor of Unit 2. The door is open. Lu Qing watched the girl's figure disappear into the doorway of the unit. He quickly turned around and left the balcony. During this process, his eyes swept across the familiar living room. And he suddenly felt a little nervous. Wouldn't it seem too old, shabby and cramped? They couldn't compare to Ku's family at all. Would it leave a bad impression on her? Lu Qing swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He was excited to officially share his past with Yenjika, but he was also nervous because he was worried that she wouldn't recognize him. A little bit of inferiority was inevitable. Furthermore, there was no air conditioner installed at home, only fans. Fortunately, there was a walking air conditioner like me. He looked at the bright sunlight and felt the surging heat waves as he waited at the door. Not long after, the sound of a girl's light footsteps could be heard, and a beautiful figure entered his eyes. Yenjika's eyes swept over the scene inside. She pursed her lips and smiled. Just now, I felt like I was shooting a spy film. So sneaky. Lu Qing handed his slippers to her, closed the door and put on his father's slippers. He smiled and said, Actually, you don't have to be sneaky as long as you want to. I'm not stupid. Yenjika raised her head and joked. Do you want to bring my sandals to your room? She was teasing Lu Qing's behavior when he came to her house. No, it's good that my mom comes back and sees it. Lu Qing answered with a smile. Humph. Yenjika bent down to pick up her sandals and stuffed them into Lu Qing's hands. Take it. Your sandals are so big. She lifted her right leg and shook the sandals hanging on her toes. Sandals are always big to be comfortable. Lu Qing led the girl to the bedroom, secretly watching her reaction to his home. Yenjika looked around curiously and pointed at the door of the 2nd bedroom. She covered her mouth and laughed. Is this where you secretly watch TV? Lu Qing had once told her interesting stories about his childhood. There was one time when he couldn't forget a TV program, so he secretly opened the door a crack, stood on tiptoe by the door, and stared at the TV in front of him. But that night his parents were watching a horror movie, and he was so scared that he couldn't fall asleep. Yeah, it's a psychological shadow. Lu Qing answered with a smile. Then he plucked up his courage and asked, Ku, do you think my house is shabby? Coach Yen said to communicate actively and not leave any uneasiness. Yenjika tilted her head, pursed her lips and smiled. Why would I? It's okay, it's clean and tidy. It's not my home. I only have 3 requirements for other places. Not dirty, not messy, not dangerous. Besides, you have a lot of past experiences here, so it's quite interesting to live here occasionally. Bah, what am I saying? Live here occasionally. Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief and became confident again. He also felt the point of view of the girl inadvertently. He held her hand and said with a smile, We will have our own home in the future. It was spacious, sunny and clean. Who has our own home with you? Yenjika raised her head and looked to the side. Lu Qing smiled and said, In fact, I was worried that we would have a conflict of ideas. After all, our family environments are different. After he was sure, he became calmer and could speak out his worries. In fact, a lot of conflicts of ideas are not so important. Yenjika rolled her eyes and said with a smile. Like housework, can't you just hire a housekeeper? You just need to wash your private things. Like who will cook? Can't you just hire a good housekeeper? You can cook by yourself when you're interested. Like in the future, when the two elders are not in good health, it will be hard to take care of them. If you hire a professional nurse to take care of the most important part, it won't be so tiring. She said it calmly as if it was a matter of course. Lu Qing listened in a daze. He felt that many of the conflicts in his family seemed to have disappeared after this discussion. Of course, this required a solid economic foundation. Coach Yen, a lot of small conflicts of ideas are indeed not so important. Lu Qing said with emotion. Money was not omnipotent, but one could not do anything without money. This sentence was an exaggeration, but when the economy was not rich, many small problems were indeed more obvious. The saying that a poor couple had 100 sorrows was definitely not just for show. Thinking of this, Lu Qing had one more motivation to make money to support the family. Did I broaden your horizons again? Yenjika showed her dimples and smiled. It was a happy thing to have one's ideas recognized by the person one liked the most. Yes, I learned a lot from you. Lu Qing put the girl's sandals in the corner of his room and asked Yenjika to sit on the bed. He took out his photo album and schoolmate record and handed them over as if he was presenting a treasure. I used to regret that there were so many classes in our grade, so I couldn't take a group photo of the whole grade. I couldn't take a photo of you as a souvenir. But now he shared his feelings at that time. Yenjika opened her mouth and then closed it again. She felt sweet in her heart. Chung was really stupid at that time. She opened a photo album on her lap and looked through it. Lu Qing turned on the fan and used the power of frost. He hugged the girl's waist and put his head close to hers. It's so cool. Yenjika praised with a smile. This is your senior year graduation photo, right? Your hair was so long that it almost reached your eyes. You looked so decadent. Not decadent, just lazy. I didn't know how to take care of myself. Usually, I would get a buzz cut first and wait for my hair to grow freely. Then I would get a buzz cut again. I didn't have to bother with this kind of thing for 2 months. Lu Qing explained his attitude at that time, but he was a little guilty. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and snickered. If you do this again, I'll do it for you myself. Are you good at it? Lu Qing asked in surprise. No. In fact, I don't have any skills at all. Let's see if you can be lazy or not. Yenjika covered her mouth and laughed, looking through the photos. Lu Qing's photos had become less and less since he started to have difficulties in his family. After going to high school, he didn't like to take photos. The girl flipped through half of the album and saw his elementary school photos. Haha, you have a red dot on your forehead. You look like a girl. That was a class dance. Everyone had a red dot on their forehead. I don't know what the teacher was thinking. Is this the nude bathtub photo you were talking about? It's exposed. I couldn't help it. I was young and ignorant. My dad took a photo of it and left a dark history. The two were very close to each other, discussing the photos and the story behind them. They were in high spirits and could smell each other's breaths. Lu Qing smelled the fragrance in his nose. Her delicate body was in his arms. He looked up and down and saw the girl's seductive side. His heart was gradually stirred. We are at home. There are no outsiders. It's very comfortable and reassuring. Dad and Mom almost never come back early. It's been a long time since we made out. Lu Qing turned his head and saw the girl's pink lips. He lowered his head and noticed her beautiful white and tender legs. He suddenly stood up and walked to the door. Where are you going? Yenjika looked at him with obvious confusion. Lu Qing closed the door of the second bedroom and pretended to be serious as he explained. I forgot to close the door. In this way, even if my parents come back temporarily, they won't find anything. Oh. Yenjika's long eyelashes trembled a few times. She lowered her eyes again and looked at the photo album on her knees. Lu Qing sat beside her and reached out to hold her waist. It seemed to be the same position as before, but he held her tighter, as if he wanted to completely rub the girl into his arms. Yenjika wriggled twice and then calmed down. She still lowered her eyes and focused on the childhood photos of Lu Qing. Chapter 295. Lu Qing felt that he had matured a lot in all aspects and had surpassed his current age and status. Although he often fantasized about his future wedding with Yan Zhika, growing old together with her, and living a beautiful life with her, he had never considered such details of his life. He was a little confused for a moment. Was it because girls matured earlier than boys and had a different way of thinking? That was why they could think about the long term and draw the outline bit by bit? Or was it because only a few people were like that? They were rational, mature, and had their own views and attitudes on all aspects of things? After pondering for a while, Lu Qing didn't hide his thoughts. He deliberated and said, "I don't think so. I think this is a very normal and realistic consideration. If my grandparents moved here, my mom would quarrel with them every 3 days or 5 days because of her favoritism toward my second dad. Sooner or later, something would happen. I think that when two people are together, there are already a lot of things that need to be done. If we also involve the original families of both parties, it will definitely be more tiring, more troublesome, and easier for problems to arise. Moreover, your parents and mine are all over 40 years old, and have already been fixed in all aspects. It's hard for them to change. It's better to keep a distance from them, so as to avoid quarrels. Everyone is harmonious. If you miss them, you can go back and stay for a few days. If they are sick, you can also take care of them for a period of time. Hire a professional nurse." Yan Zhika explained her point of view, which was rare for her to be long-winded. She didn't intend to talk about this with Lu Qing right now. She planned to influence him subtly in their daily interactions. However, after the romantic moment in the afternoon, she suddenly felt that they had become closer and closer. They were more like one country. She didn't have to worry about anything to say to him. "It does make sense. I just haven't thought about this problem. I feel like I have to wait for a long time before I face it. I don't need to worry about it now." Lu Qing thought and replied. Yan Zhika said, "It's good that you haven't thought about it before. Dirty Tong said that this is perfect for me to teach. It's easier to draw on a blank piece of paper than to edit other people's work." "Hey, why do I feel that your words are a little dirty?" Lu Qing sent an emoji with raised eyebrows. He gradually agreed with Yan Zhika's views on this matter. "You are the dirty one. Your head is full of dirty thoughts." Yan Zhika, who was lying on her side on the bed, snorted and gnashed her teeth. "Who was the one who randomly kissed and touched her in the afternoon?" Seeing this sentence, Lu Qing immediately recalled the previous scene. He thought of the brilliant sunlight and the stunning beauty. "Ku, you are so beautiful," he replied with a blushing expression. "Ah." Yan Zhika was stunned at first, confused by Lu Qing's sudden praise. Then she connected the context and understood what he meant. Her cheeks flushed red as if they could spit out fire. "Qing, you scoundrel! You scoundrel!" She grabbed the blanket and covered her head, pounding the bed a few times. After venting, she replied with a go-away emoji, embarrassed, angry, proud and sweet. I don't talk to perverts." Without waiting for Lu Qing's reply, she thought of something and found a Weibo post. She saved a picture and sent it to her boyfriend. "Who do you think has a better figure between the two girls? Which one do you prefer?" One was slender with a thin waist, while the other was full of curves. Lu Qing glanced at him and chuckled. "Not as good as you." Yan Zhika burst out laughing. She lifted the blanket and rolled around. "Yo, you even know the standard answer." "Of course, Coach Yan is good at teaching." Lu Qing put his hands on his hips and laughed. It's not fun if I don't fall for it." Yan Zhika smiled. The two flirted for a while. If Qi Fong wasn't focused on the TV series, she would have noticed her son's ripples. "Oh right, Ku, is Sister Jingjing suitable for a party? How about we treat her twice?" Lu Qing expressed his doubts when they talked about the treat tomorrow night. "Sister Jingjing hates men so much," Yan Zhika said. In the beginning, Songli said she wanted to bring a boyfriend, so Shuang suggested we treat both parties together. It's more fun with more people. I was also worried about Sister Jingjing's condition, so I said we should treat her separately. But Sister Jingjing said we don't have to go through so much trouble. The best attitude for people with psychological problems is to treat them as normal people and let them adjust themselves. The more sensitive and caring we are, the more uncomfortable they will feel, and the more serious the problem will be. That makes sense. Lu Qing stopped thinking about this problem and prepared to follow Coach Yan's instructions to sound out Fatty Jiang and Qin Rue. He asked them not to mention the case at dinner. Tomorrow afternoon, according to the agreement with Chairman Wei Renjia, he had to guide the special training team for the preliminaries in Xioshan for 4 hours. It was 10:30 at night. Because of the breakthrough in their relationship in the afternoon, Lu Cheng and Yan Zheke were reluctant to end their conversation. They delayed it for 10 minutes before saying good night to each other. Lu Qing lay on the bed, bathed in the moonlight outside the window, recalling every detail of the day. His nose seemed to be lingering with the intoxicating fragrance. He felt refreshed, confident, and satisfied. Next time to go to Ke's house? Will it be a Western-style wedding or a Chinese-style wedding? I wonder what Ke looks like in a wedding dress. He smiled and indulged his thoughts, thinking about the future. After a few minutes, he froze the water into ice, concealed his spirit and qi, and fell into a deep sleep. We can meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow is another beautiful day. On the other side, Yanjeka lay on her side with her right hand under her cheek. Her lips were outlined, her dimples were shallow, and her mind was wandering. She blinked her eyelashes and closed her eyes. She said in a low voice, "Good night, Cheng." The next morning, Lu Qing got up with great motivation and ran to the lakeside at Hoshui Lake, waiting for the arrival of his little fairy. Yan Zheke arrived a few minutes earlier than usual. She wanted to pretend that nothing had happened, but when she saw Lu Qing's smiling eyes, she couldn't help but remember what happened yesterday afternoon. She quickly turned her head and looked to the side. Her face was tender and charming. She was dizzy and was hugged by him, completing the morning kiss. "Well, hurry up and practice." She pushed her boyfriend away, her eyes twinkling like stars. "Yes, I'm full of motivation." Lu Qing joked, collected his mind, and started his daily practice. In the end, he took out the visualization diagram again to understand the essence and charm of it. When he sank his spirit into the prairie fire diagram for the nth time, his body suddenly felt like it was burning, and his muscles, tendons, viscera, and nerves naturally had subtle changes. This feeling disappeared in a flash. Lu Qing wanted to taste it again, but he couldn't grasp it. But he wasn't impatient or annoyed, because this was a good start. It meant that he was on the right path. It meant that the previous experience of understanding the visualization diagram of Frost Force was very useful. It meant that the breakthrough in his relationship with Ke yesterday had brought him greater happiness and greater responsibility, and his will to protect became stronger and firmer. Thinking of this, he opened his eyes and looked sideways at the girl who was practicing her bone marrow and viscera not far away. Yanjika also finished her practice and looked at him subconsciously. When their eyes met, they looked at each other and smiled, their eyes intertwining. Without saying anything, they tacitly withdrew their gazes and continued their practice full of motivation. Because Yanjika's body was much healthier, she could bear more training intensity. After breakfast, they returned to the original place and practiced for 2 more hours. After accompanying the girl to the city library for an hour of self-study and lunch, Lu Qing came to the gate of Gushin Martial Arts School. Before he walked in, he saw a black Audi in front of him. The driver hurriedly opened the door and got off, asking respectfully, "Are you Mr. Liu? The chairman asked me to take you to the special training place." Sure enough, it's a special car. Lu Qing didn't refuse. After confirming that Qin Rue would go by himself, he got in the car and sat at the back of the passenger seat. Looking at the scenery passing by, they came to an inconspicuous temple at the foot of Xioshan. "Little Lu, you're here." Wei Renjia personally waited outside. Lu Cheng was a little flattered and smiled politely. "Chairman, you don't have to wait outside. I'm not a kid who doesn't know the way." Wei Renjia handed the briefcase to his secretary and led Lu Qing into the temple. "I just happened to come out. This time I've selected 13 potential amateur fighters and invited Little Sun, a professional 9th pin fighter, to be the chief instructor." While talking, Lu Qing saw a martial arts field paved with white flagstones. He saw Zhou Zhengyao and other disciples of other martial arts schools, and an old monk in a gray frock. "This is the abbot of the Bodhi Zen temple," Master Wenguang. When he was young, he traveled all over the north and south and was quite famous. He even got a 6th pin certificate. He's a famous senior in Xioshan and also the other instructor I invited. Wei Renjie introduced him with a smile. Wenguang put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. I'm old. I'm not as brave as I used to be, let alone a young hero like Donor Lu. When he was talking, Lu Qing suddenly felt that the monk in front of him was a little taller, with layers of glazed golden light, as if Arhat Buddha had come down to earth. People couldn't help but worship him. But in reality, Wenguang's body didn't change at all. Is this a sign of something else? Is this the suppression of momentum or the secret of the mind? Lu Cheng's pupil shrank. Chapter 296. Facing monk Wenguang, Wei Renjie didn't react at all. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, felt more and more like a Buddha. He could think rationally and sense that something was wrong, but he didn't have the slightest intention to fight. When two martial artists were facing each other, if they didn't have the intention to fight, it would be hard for them to get excited and react quickly, which would cause them to be slow in blocking. Fortunately, Wenguang just stood there with a smile and looked at Lu Qing leisurely. He didn't intend to make a move. Lu Qing tried to visualize the scene of condensing water into ice, but the lake in his heart strangely reflected a golden Buddha statue with hand seals. It was grand, solemn, bright, and solemn, suppressing all distracting thoughts. Interesting. Thinking quickly, he made a decision. He sank his spirit and connected with the Jindan, magnifying its own mood. The scenery around him changed and became deep and boundless. Lu Qing only felt that his heart was like a blue planet floating in the dark and cold darkness. The golden Buddha statue was in the center with a compassionate expression and benevolent eyes. Humph! His thoughts rose and touched the grand sun, making his heart and the Buddha statue quickly become small. Soon Lu Qing saw the galaxy, the Milky Way, and the boundless bright starry sky. At this scale, the golden Buddha statue had disappeared without a trace. He couldn't see it at all. Your body and name will be destroyed, but the rivers and rivers will last forever. Wenguang's leisurely and warm smile suddenly froze. He found that Lu Qing in front of him became empty and deep, making him feel like he was looking at the night sky. While his heart was broadened, he inexplicably felt the grandeur of nature and his own insignificance. The countless stars that dotted the night sky were like Lu Cheng's eyes, quietly and indifferently looking at her. Drip. Wenguang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. It slid down his face and fell to the ground, splashing everywhere. His body swayed, and he subconsciously closed his eyes. He loosened the hand seal that he was secretly making and stumbled back 2 steps. Master Wenguang? Only then did Wei Renjie notice that the atmosphere was a little strange. Wenguang stopped and opened his eyes. He looked at Lu Qing in astonishment, only to see this cool and steady young man with a faint smile on his face. His momentum was restrained and he looked normal. The smell of the starry sky just now was like an illusion. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Wenguang gave a wry smile and put his palms together. I saw that benefactor Lu was young and full of vigor, so I couldn't help but test him secretly. I didn't expect to suffer a loss. This was an imposing manner attack combined with part of the gist of trueness of the Buddhist sect's valiant virtue secret method. Initially, he thought that a young man who had just entered level 8, no matter how outstanding his combat power was and how close he was to level 7, would have no way to resist it. He would have to rely on stimulating his qi and blood to destroy his body to get rid of it. Who would have thought that the other party's imposing manner was as deep as the abyss and as deep as the mountains, like the boundless starry sky above his head, was actually more powerful than him? After the 8th pin, firstly, the body would develop in the direction of training the root pulp. Secondly, the spirit, qi, blood, and force would gradually deepen the integration, laying a solid foundation for the external connection. During this process, there would naturally be layers of miraculous effects. For example, some 7th pin members would have absolute reaction to danger and malice within a certain range, and some 6th pin members would have imposing means without the use of secret spiritual methods. Wenguang did not expect to experience the feeling of a senior rank, 6 from a young man who had just entered rank 8. Hearing this, Lu Qing smiled slightly. You're too kind. Master, you're being modest. The higher the level of martial arts, the richer the means would be. No need for modesty, no need for modesty. Monks don't lie. You are indeed a genius with unlimited potential. Wen Guang chanted the name of Buddha and paid his respects to Wei Renjia. This poor monk will take his leave now. Watching him walk into the meditation hall, Zhou Zhengyao and the other special training members were a little stunned. They had experienced Master Wen Guang's means in the past 2 days, and had almost worshipped him like a bodhisattva or arhat. However, such a powerful senior rank, 6 mighty one, a senior of Xioshan, actually suffered in front of Lu Qing? Although Master Wen Guang was old and his physical condition was deteriorating, his short burst of power was not much worse than that of a 6th pin in his prime. While they were still in shock and doubt, Wei Renjia calmed down and took out the secret books and diagrams of the internal training method for Lu Qing to browse first so that it would be convenient for him to guide them later. At this time, Qin Rui, Dai Linfeng, and Su Rongfei, the 3 disciples of Gushan Martial Arts School, arrived and noticed the strange scene. What happened just now? Dai Linfeng pulled a disciple of Foguang Martial Arts School and whispered. This disciple did not hide anything and described Master Wen Guang's strange behavior and words. Qin Rui and the others were stunned as if they were listening to a legend. This is not scientific. They secretly sighed. Is it because the more you know Lu Qing, the more unfathomable he is? Soon Lu Qing finished reading the internal training methods provided by the Foundation, and found that it was much more inferior than his own Thunder Roar Zen. It was almost impossible to practice Tremor Punch with it. Well, let's start practicing. I'll watch first. Lu Qing put away the diagrams and smiled at the special training members who were standing in 3 rows. Qin Rui and Dai Linfeng took the lead and answered in unison, Yes, Instructor Lu. Their voices were loud and clear, echoing in the quiet Zen temple without any reluctance. In a room deep in the Zen temple, Wen Guang typed on the keyboard with 2 fingers and wrote an email. Got in touch with the target. Great potential, almost as good as Pengren. After 4 hours of guidance, Lu Qing changed his clothes and took a car to the villa area by the backwater lake to pick up Yinjika. She had relatives in the afternoon, so she couldn't meet Gu Shuang and the others in advance. Nervous? After a short while, he saw his girlfriend walking out gracefully in a white cotton dress and a pair of canvas shoes, emphasizing the feeling of a young girl and the artistic style of youth. Yinjika rolled her eyes. Why should I be nervous? Anyway, they all know you are my Cheng. My nervousness comes from lack of confidence. Facing Cheng's friends, I am quite confident. They chatted and laughed, took a taxi to the place where they were treating guests to dinner, Drunken Beauty Mountain. According to the message sent by Gu Shuang, they found the private room directly. In the private room, Qin Rui had already arrived and was talking cheerfully with Fatty Jiang, Tao Xiaofei and Du Liu. From time to time, he would steal glances at the mature and beautiful Gu Shuang opposite him. Xing Jingjing sat between the petite and pretty Song Li and her best friend Gu Shuang. Although she looked indifferent, there was nothing unusual about her. She was whispering something to her 2 friends. From time to time, she would accompany Jiang Fei and the others to reminisce about the past in the No. 1 high school. She heard the footsteps first. When she turned around, she happened to see the door open and Lu Qing and Yinjika walking in hand. Jiang Fei subconsciously held his breath. He saw that the girl he had seen before was even more beautiful than she was in the past. She was even more beautiful than she was in his memory. However, she was less polite and courteous. Her eyebrows were more lively, and her eyes were filled with the taste of the mortal world. His good friend was not tall, but he was tall enough. He was not handsome, but he was pleasing to the eye. He was calm and gentle, confident and modest. The 2 of them walked in side by side, their fingers interlocked. It was like a scene from a TV series was imprinted in his eyes. They were a perfect match. The melancholy and sadness in Jiang Fei's heart completely disappeared. The room was quiet for a while. When Lu Qing and Yinjika walked to their seats, Du Liu picked up his wine glass and said with a smile, Cheng, you have to apologize to me. You can use tea as wine and toast me 3 times. Before the others could say anything, he explained. It's your fault for being so good. Your girlfriend always praises you in front of our Songli. In the end, I'm the one who suffers. There's no harm without comparison. Songli's favorite thing to say now is that you should learn from Chung, blah blah blah. Before he could finish, Songli pinched him and glared at him. Lu Qing looked at Yenjuka with a smile. He did not expect her to praise him in front of her best friend so often. Yenjuka turned her head and raised her chin. She did not respond. Okay, these 3 glasses deserve it, Lu Qing replied cheerfully. When he was about to pick up his glass, Gu Shuang touched the roulette table with the bottom of her glass and said with a smile, Let's toast together. I wish that Chung and Ku will always be united and grow old together. What kind of line is that? Yenjuka scolded Gu Shuang. Hee, I wish you all the best. Gu Shuang cheekily encouraged the others to toast them. Tao Xiaofei and the others were eager to see the world in chaos. They said in unison, I wish the 2 newlyweds will be of one heart and grow old together, ha ha ha. Lu Qing looked at Yenjuka with a smile and egged her on. Drink up. You all the best. You all the best. Yenjuka gritted her teeth and glared at him. She took a deep breath and generously accepted the toast. The atmosphere suddenly became lively. Everyone talked and laughed and joked with each other. In the end, they even urged Lu Qing and Yenjuka to drink cross-cupped wine. Because of the spy Lu Qing, the girl could not resist. She had to cross her arms shyly and drink a glass of juice with him. Time flew by after the gathering. Lu Qing practiced his martial arts step by step, taught the VIP class, and gave pointers to the special training. From time to time, he would visit his grandparents, as well as visit his elders like Director Xing and the others. Of course, the most important thing was his date with Yenjuka. Because his house was not safe, he could only consider the girl's bedroom. The number of times they made out could be counted on one hand. But every time, Lu Qing remembered it clearly and was very satisfied. In the blink of an eye, August was coming to an end. The summer vacation was coming to an end. Lu Qing habitually came to the backwater lake to practice. But when school was about to start, Yenjuka was asked by her grandparents to stay for a short while. She would not come back until 2 days later. Thinking of his little fairy, Lu Qing calmed down and visualized the scene of a prairie fire burning the earth. He felt a burning pain in his body, and the changes in his muscles and fascia occurred naturally. Without the help of the Jindan, he successfully grasped the essence and charm of the prairie fire picture and the Zhurong picture in just over 20 days. At the end of the practice, Lu Qing adjusted his muscles and wriggled his organs to make the corresponding changes of the prairie fire picture. He let the flames surge, and then sketched in his mind the god with the head of a beast and the feet of a human. The flames quieted down as if they were suppressed and tamed to the extreme. Lu Qing took a step forward and punched the void with his right fist. Boom! An explosion rang out, and with his fist as the center, a few waves of fire rolled out, the burning intent distorting the light. Lu Qing withdrew his hand and stopped with satisfaction. He turned around and left. With the lake behind him, he was full of anticipation for the start of school. National University Martial Arts Competition, here I come. Peng Liyun Renli, here I come. Chapter 297. The cool morning breeze blew away the aura of the autumn tiger. Yen Xiaoling dragged her luggage and left the registration area. She followed the senior in front of her and found her dorm, Block 2, Unit 3, Room 401. She was wearing a loose white t-shirt with a knot at the bottom. She was wearing high heels. She was not as active and cheerful as she was on the internet. Instead, she was as quiet as a quail. After thanking the senior, she pushed open the half-closed door and found Room A. As soon as she entered, her vision blurred and she saw a black kitten running past her. She jumped up in fright and screamed. But when she turned around to look at the door, searching for the black cat, her eyes met with a pair of round spectacles. Yen Xiaoling tilted her body and tilted her head. She looked around the empty living room, but couldn't find the kitten from earlier. Did you see a cat? It's so black and it runs so fast. She blurted out to her roommate in front of her. She should be my roommate. She thought suspiciously, because this girl with round glasses was dressed in dull and old-fashioned clothes. She seemed to have left home in a hurry and brought the wrong clothes for her elders. You must be seeing things, the girl with the round glasses answered calmly. Probably. Yan Xiaoling looked around again, but still couldn't find the black kitten. She smiled and said, "Hello, I'm Yan Xiaoling. From now on, we're roommates." The girl with the round glasses nodded. "He's the bed by the window." She pointed to the left. "Box." Yan Xiaoling didn't understand and asked back. "Look at the name list on the door." He had round glasses and a round face. "There's a name list on the door?" Yan Xiaoling turned her head and saw a piece of paper with black words on a white background. "You're turning into a box. That's my nickname." He pushed up her glasses and smiled politely. "How can you be sure that you're in room A without looking at the name list?" Yan Xiaoling was stunned for a few seconds and answered weakly, "Intuition." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw a flash of light in He's glasses. She almost had the illusion that she would be called a retard. But my intuition is right. At this moment, another young lady came in from outside the door. She was dressed in a white Han costume with red patterns. She had a pretty face and was brimming with youth. One is dressed like an auntie, and the other is dressed in traditional Chinese clothing. Can I say that this is indeed the Academy of Arts? They are all so independent and unique. But they are all good-looking, including me. Cough. Yan Xiaoling was lost in her thoughts until the new girl introduced herself. "Hello, I am Mu Jinyan. I arrived last night." Hello, I'm Yan Xiaoling." Yan Xiaoling happily replied, almost rushing up to shake hands with the other person. What to do? They're all taller than me. Even though I've already put on my combat boots. At the same time, she thought sadly. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Yan Xiaoling took out her phone and browsed the forum. She saw many replies. "Let's go to the martial arts club and watch the live broadcast of Lucheng." "Brat, don't be a coward. If you don't dare, I'll call you Cowardly Ling in the future. Either you broadcast what you see in the martial arts club, or you broadcast eating sh*t. It's your choice." Damn it. Why did I say that I would go to the martial arts club to film Lucheng as soon as I arrived at Songqing University? I'm sorry, I'm sad. Yan Xiaoling looked at the urging of Brahmin and others. She was excited and nervous. See my idol. She raised her head and asked without much hope. "What's the matter?" "I'm going to the martial arts club. Are you coming with me?" Normal freshmen should be more concerned about military training at this time. However, as soon as she finished speaking, she heard two answers in unison. Okay. Yan Xiaoling looked at the round-faced girl, He's, and then at the aloof Mu Jinyan. She suddenly didn't know how to react. I just asked casually, soon. She came to her senses and found courage in the company of her two roommates. She beamed with joy and said, "Then let's go now. As for the luggage, I'll pack it when I come back. La Lucheng, I'm coming." Walking across the square, the long bridge and the teaching area, the three girls arrived at the martial arts club. Since the school hadn't officially started yet, they found that there were few people in the stadium. Only a few people were putting up slogans. The slogans were red and black, filling the stadium with burning passion. The content of the slogans was similar, and they all set the goal. National final match. Seeing these words, Yan Xiaoling felt her blood boiling. She subconsciously moved closer to them, and suddenly felt that the boy who was directing this work was quite familiar. I know you." She stammered for a long time before she finally shouted out excitedly. Kai Zoming glanced at the girl with a lowly face and thought half doubtfully and half proudly. "Do I have fans? Did I get them with my face?" Before he could say anything, Yan Xiaoling added, "You're Lu Cheng's classmate, right? You were interviewed by the TV station together. I've watched that video many times." Kai Zoming reached out to cover his face and said half-jokingly, "Have I fallen to this point? Do I have to rely on the identity of Lu Cheng's classmate to identify myself?" Yan Xiaoling first took a few photos of the martial arts club and posted them on the forum. Then she plucked up the courage to ask, "Where's Lu Cheng?" Mu Jinyan beside her also spoke at this time, "Where's Lin K?" He's, on the other hand, was seriously looking at the surroundings. Kai Zongming sighed and spread out his hands. The special training hasn't officially started yet. Of course, they've found a place to practice by themselves. Then why are you here? Yan Xiaoling blurted out in disappointment. It took me a lot of courage to come here. Why am I here? I have to be here. I'm the president of the martial arts club. Kai Zongming answered, annoyed and amused. You're the president? Yan Xiaoling almost showed a look of, who do you think you are? Mu Jinyan was also a little confused. What's wrong? I don't look like the president. Kai Zongming didn't get angry at being questioned. He smiled and said, yes, you don't look like the president. I think so myself too. Our last president graduated in his 4th year. Normally speaking, the successor should be selected from the few people with the highest martial arts skills. Only in this way can the public be convinced. But damn, one of them said it was too troublesome, and the other didn't even say anything. He just took a look and left. I wanted to decline, but the teacher said that the school had already decided. How can a good substitute like me become the president of the martial arts club? Influenced by Comrade Zhaochang, he also learned some sentence patterns. Oh, very Lin Kei. Mu Jinyan smiled. This is Lin Kei's fan. Yan Xiaoling puffed out her small chest and smiled happily. Also very Lin Kei. Haha. Thank you for your hard work. After that, she added a patting on the shoulder emoji in her heart. After chatting for a while, they became more familiar with Kai Zongming. Yan Xiaoling gradually showed her true colors and asked with expectation. When does the martial arts club start classes? Can I sign up now? You're freshmen, right? You have to wait for the military training to have a unified enrollment. Kai Zongming just said a few words when he suddenly saw 2 familiar figures coming over. He hurriedly raised his hand to greet them. Senior brother Sun. Senior sister Lin. Sun Jian laughed and said, you're indeed the new president. You're so dutiful. We just passed by and found you. Serving the people. Kai Zongming pretended to be serious and amused everyone. Senior brother Sun, senior sister Lin. I thought you would be busy with writing papers and looking for jobs this semester, and wouldn't come to the martial arts club. Relying on his outgoing and talkative personality, he had a good relationship with the special training members of the martial arts club. Sun Jian's eyes were in a trance for a moment, and then he smiled and said, after 4 years in college, we want to leave a good ending. Our martial arts club is competitive in the country with 2 dance stage fighters. We'll definitely surpass the previous year's results. Haha, we're here to freeload on Lu Qing and Lin Kei. For the national finals. For the national finals. Kai Zongming reached out and bumped with them, his eyes full of longing and expectation. Looking at them, Yan Xiaoling suddenly wished that it was November soon. Alas, I didn't see Lu Qing at the first moment. Out of the martial arts arena, Yan Xiaoling was still in melancholy. He said thoughtfully, the collision of muscles and hot blood. I really want to write an essay. You can write essays? Yan Xiaoling looked at her roommate in surprise. Not only can I write, but I can also speak. When we're close, I'll make you cry. Izzy smiled slightly. What a strange roommate. Yan Xiaoling rubbed her face and quickly turned her thoughts away. How annoying. I didn't even see Lu Qing. Not bad, practice makes perfect. Beside Weishui Lake, Geezer crossed his arms and watched his silly disciple use Zhurong force. Lu Qing put away his stance and smiled slightly complacently. Then he made a request. Master, I think I've awakened my supernatural ability for the 2nd time. Chapter 298. The morning heat had yet to set in, and the cool breeze by the lake was refreshing. Geezer was amused by Lu Qing's request. I knew you couldn't hold back. You haven't even learned the martial arts of dance stage, and you're already thinking about awakening your supernatural ability. Go ahead and do it. I'll be watching over you. Nothing will go wrong. Lu Qing chuckled and didn't talk back to his master. After the White World incident, he had full confidence in his master's strength. He had already analyzed the pros and cons of which supernatural ability he should improve first, and made up his mind. The supernatural ability of frost. He chose the lesser of the two evils. The human body's ability to withstand cold was obviously stronger than its resistance to burning fire. This time, what came out of squeezing the Jindan wasn't necessarily something like hot current or cold tide. It was highly likely that they would materialize. Lu Qing calmed down and walked to the lakeside to avoid accidentally causing a fire. He first adjusted his fascia, muscles, and internal organs to create a burning sensation caused by the prairie fire picture. The power of flame in his body grew stronger and turned from a current to a tide. Then he visualized Zhurong, who had an animal head and a human body, and stepped on a red dragon. He turned the suppressive and tyrannical charm of the commander of flames into physical and mental changes, and controlled the flame that was about to fly away. Bang! Bang! He swung his fists left and right, continuously bombarding the air in front of him with his fists, creating waves of crimson flames. From afar, it looked like fireworks. Geysershire stood at the side, holding a silver wine pot, leisurely enjoying the new batch of filial gifts brought by his foolish disciple. After countless punches, the air in the air was so hot that it could distort the light and make the surrounding mist look like a dream. Lu Cheng's power of flame had reached its limit and was almost exhausted. He didn't hesitate and repeated the previous process with a firm will. He twisted his waist and swung his arms, visualized Zhurong, and threw a blast punch forward. Bang! As the airflow dispersed, the Jindan in Lu Cheng's body was affected. First, it expanded outward, making its nebula dazzling. Then it quickly shrank, shaking out several layers of grandsons on the outside, turning them into flying meteors. Following the force, they rushed outward. With a boom, the surface of the lake surged, and a pillar of fire shot up a few meters high. The surroundings were filled with white smoke, as if it was real. Geysershire's mouth was half open. He even forgot to tilt the wine pot beside him. Was this still the performance of a 7th grade or 8th grade supernatural ability? Even an inhuman-level fire force wouldn't be this powerful. The pillars of fire quickly scattered, turning into waves that covered the surface of the lake by the shore, making it seem like it was draped in a red kasaya. After a full 5 seconds, everything returned to normal. On the long bridge, several students who happened to be studying in the teaching area rubbed their eyes and gave up the idea of calling the fire alarm. They suspected that they were hallucinating. At this time, the golden core rotated in a balanced manner, throwing out the excess ice crystals. They disintegrated into cold and were released into the host's body. Lu Qing immediately lost consciousness. Everything was dark and silent. It was not until a warm current poured into his head from the top of his head, protecting his brain and heart, that he slowly recovered from the feeling of his mind being frozen. He heard the violent beating of his heart and the splashing sound of his blood flowing like a river. He experienced the natural change of ice floating on the surface of the water and gradually melting. A few dozen seconds later, his qi and blood surged, alleviating the coldness and nurturing vitality, reviving all things. T. Lu Cheng's teeth chattered and he shivered. He saw his master withdraw his left hand from his head. Geysershire frowned and said, "Fortunately, you didn't try it yourself. You can awaken the power of blaze next month." Lu Qing nodded while trembling. He had no objection to his master's words. If it wasn't for the old man's help just now, he would most likely have suffered severe frostbite that affected his internal organs. Even if he didn't die, his body would have collapsed. The backlash from the Jindan this time was several times more severe than he had expected. Fortunately, he didn't force himself, and when his body adapted to the frost and improved its strength, it would be much safer to awaken the power of blaze next month. As for the third awakening, I think the thing in your body will collapse by itself. I'm afraid the backlash will be terrible. You haven't reached the physical invulnerability stage, so don't try it. Geysershire reminded him. Then he smiled and said, "Do you want to drink some wine to warm yourself up? Hey, didn't you quit drinking?" "No, I have hot water." Lu Cheng regained the ability to speak. "I know. Yin girl has been waiting over there." Geysershire clicked his tongue and put away the wine jug. He put his hands behind his back and walked to the long bridge. This kid's supernatural ability awakening process is a bit strange. I still don't know enough about cultivation. I have to ask them to get me some information as soon as possible. When he left, he deliberately coughed twice to remind the girl in the woods. Yenjika's face turned red because of his teasing. She walked out with a down jacket and a thermos. She approached Lu Cheng and helped him put on his clothes. Then she asked with concern, "Are you okay?" She knew Lu Cheng was going to try to awaken the power of frost today. Although she knew Coach Sure would be there and nothing would happen, she was still worried and couldn't calm down. In the end, she chose to be prepared and wait nearby. "Fortunately, my master is here." Lu Cheng didn't directly mention the danger just now. He took the thermos from the girl and couldn't wait to take a sip. He felt the warmth flowing down his throat and rippling. It was indescribably comfortable. Yenjika breathed a sigh of relief and glanced at her boyfriend. "Why are you in such a hurry to awaken your supernatural ability? Your martial arts progress hasn't slowed down." That being said, she could guess what was on Lu Cheng's mind. He awakened his supernatural ability so that he could catch up with Peng Liyun faster. Otherwise, when Peng Liyun stepped into the inhuman stage, it would be even more difficult for him to defeat him in college. "You should know why I'm in such a hurry to awaken my supernatural ability." Lu Cheng answered with a smile and took another sip of hot water. Yenjika pursed her lips and stared at him. She smiled first and warmly changed the topic. "After this awakening, how much has your power of frost improved?" "My body hasn't recovered yet, so I don't know. I guess that even if I don't use the frost force, I can hurt people with my supernatural ability. But the effect may not be so good." Lu Cheng completely recovered and moved his hands and feet. Yenjika pecked his head and suddenly smiled. "Yen Shaoling has been to the martial arts club." "What?" Lu Cheng was confused. "That Eternal Nightfall, the moderator of your forum. She posted a live post about her experience in the martial arts club." Yenjika looked at her boyfriend with a smile. Lu Cheng didn't know why he was a little scared by her smile. He hurriedly said, "Idols have to keep a distance from fans, or they will find all kinds of bad things about them. Then fans will change their minds and turn against them." "What are you talking about? I didn't mention anything." Yenjika blinked and looked innocent, but the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. Lu Cheng quickly changed to a serious face. "I'm just explaining my views and principles. By the way, Ku, are you going to participate in the amateur ranking event in the middle of this month?" Yenjika didn't continue the previous topic. She looked up and shook her head. "No, Humph. I've been praised by you so often that I've become a little arrogant. I think the ranking event of amateur first pin should be easy and not difficult at all. It can't be used for actual combat practice, so I'm not going to participate. I think I'm going to sign up for the ranking event of professional 9th pin at the end of October. It may be difficult." Lu Cheng said truthfully. After the initiation of the internal training method, Ku's physical quality improved rapidly. Coupled with the family inheritance of her martial arts, her comprehensive strength had indeed surpassed the level of amateur first pin. But to get the professional 9th pin, she was still a little bit lacking. After a few months, she would be more stable after she mastered the meteor force. "I know. I didn't expect to get the certificate this time. I'm just going to fight against masters and gain experience," Yenjika said with bright eyes and high spirits. She was full of enthusiasm for martial arts. "Okay. Find a chance to compete this month and beat 2 fighters of amateur first pin. Otherwise, you won't be able to sign up." Lu Cheng gathered his clothes and drank the hot water. He held the girl's hand and walked to the long bridge with a smile. His steps were a little light. "I'll book the hotel and make sure you're ready for the professional 9th pin competition." Hearing this, Yenjika couldn't help but think of the previous experience. That touching, warm and somewhat charming scene. She subconsciously turned her head to the side and spat. She didn't say anything. She believed that idiot Chung could control himself and wouldn't affect her state of mind in the competition. As for after the competition, Humph, it depends on his performance. Lu Cheng noticed the girl's attitude and felt happy and full of expectations. After school started, the two of them could stick to each other every day again, but correspondingly, they would lose their private space. Lu Qing respected the girl and would not cross the line. Since he was a little greedy, he could only hope for similar opportunities. Alas, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Following this topic, Yenjika asked curiously when they stepped on the long bridge. Chung, are you going to participate in the 7th pin competition at the end of October? This was the ranking event of the district, not held in Songcheng. Probably not. Lu Qing didn't hide his intention. Why not? Yenjika was quite surprised. In her opinion, with her boyfriend's cultivation speed, his strength would definitely improve by leaps and bounds in the 2 months before the end of October after he obtained the Dan stage cultivation method and the corresponding martial arts. Coupled with the second awakening of his supernatural ability, it was very likely that he would get the 7th pin certificate. There was no need to wait until April next year. This was her confidence in Lu Qing. I want to give Peng Liyun a surprise. Lu Qing exhaled and shared his truest thoughts. Once he participated in the ranking event at the end of October and the beginning of November, he would reveal most of his strength. At worst, he could directly sign up for the 6th pin competition next time. Anyway, his record was enough. If it were not his little fairy but someone else, they would definitely laugh at his naivety. Give Peng Liyun a surprise? Yenjika looked up again. You want to leave a shadow of failure in the division competition? Yes, but I can't do it by myself. I have to join hands with your cousin. Lu Qing looked forward and took off his down jacket. His body was very weak, but he walked steadily. Peng Liyun is very likely to stay at the 6th pin level before the winter vacation. This is our chance. By then, I will improve in all aspects and at least reach the top 7th pin level. Your cousin won't be too slow either. I guess he will be at the 7th pin level. With the two of us taking turns to fight, we have a chance to defeat Peng Liyun, who has been going smoothly since entering university. We can suppress his will, affect his confidence in winning, and delay his breakthrough to the inhuman level. Only in this way, we won't face the monster who can defeat everyone in the nationals next April. We can keep our hope. Hearing this, Yenjika turned her head to look at Lu Qing beside her. Looking at his chiseled profile and his eyes that were staring straight ahead, she was a little absent-minded for a moment. After a few seconds, she smiled faintly and said, "Didn't you say you don't care about the topic of the heavenly sons of China?" Lu Qing snorted and answered generously, "Which martial artist isn't competitive? I'm also a martial artist. I don't care and I'm not blindly arrogant, but it doesn't mean I'm competing to prove Peng Liyun's talent." Chapter 299. Lu Qing was driven back to his dormitory by Yenjika, who told him to have a good rest and try to recover as soon as possible. He sniffed and opened the door. To his surprise, he saw old Qiu Zhigao, still in the dormitory. "You didn't go to study?" Lu Qing asked in surprise, putting down his down jacket and thermos cup. "Did the sun rise from the west today?" Wasn't old Qiu's catchphrase, "A day's work begins in the morning"? Qiu Zhigao kept moving the mouse in front of the computer screen and said without turning his head, "Grab something." "What are you grabbing?" Lu Qing laughed and opened the wardrobe. He folded the down jacket and put it in a corner. Mo Jingting's concert tickets start at 9:30 sharp. Qiu Zhigao stared at the screen. He had been thinking about finding a girlfriend since he entered university. But the one he liked didn't like him, and the one who liked him didn't like him. So he could only stay single and focus on studying and idols. Mo Jingting? Lu Qing curled his lips and said, "Where is the concert?" After returning to Xing province from Moshang, this martial niece had not contacted him much. She only sent him a message once in a while to show her presence. This was indeed a good thing for him. A person's energy was limited. How could he have time to deal with other girls? Songcheng, don't you know? She just announced a few days ago that she will hold a concert in Songcheng in November. You can't miss it. Old Qiu said excitedly. It's starting. Songcheng. Lu Cheng's brows furrowed, but soon relaxed. It didn't matter. The university martial arts competition would start in November. Based on the school's previous record, most of the matches would be away games. They would hardly be in Songcheng on weekends. This was the mode of avoiding harassment. According to his master, he and Lin Kei would take turns to control the field in the first stage of the division competition to train the substitutes. Yeah. Why else would I grab the tickets? What a good opportunity. Old Chiu said and suddenly felt sad and angry. That bastard bought the tickets at a high price. If you didn't grab the tickets, would you buy them? Lu Qing asked with a smile. He summoned his remaining courage to lie down on the bed and let himself fall into the soft quilt. Old Chiu gritted his teeth for a while. Buy? Save some money. True love. Lu Qing praised inwardly. Old Chiu's family background was similar to his before he started practicing martial arts. His family background was average. As a student, he focused on self-study and had no source of income. He was supported by the living expenses provided by his family. This was saving from the rations. In order not to disturb Old Chiu, he didn't say anything more. He took out his phone, unlocked it, and saw that Yen Zheka had sent a photo of her cleaning in the dormitory. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face as he typed a few words of praise for his little fairy. While the girl was too busy to reply to his message, Lu Qing leisurely opened the forum and entered the Longhu Club. He browsed the news of the top professional competitions and the mighty ones with titles such as the Dragon King. As a martial artist whose goal was to attain physical invulnerability, he wasn't just interested in these things. It was also closely related to him. As for his own fan forum, there were very few people at the moment, and almost no one paid attention to things that were not related to him, so it was difficult to obtain similar information. God, please tell me which one of these two houses is better. This was the first post that Lu Qing saw. He couldn't help but think of his mother. It had been almost a month since she said that she wanted to buy a house, but she still hadn't made a decision. She even expanded the range of options, no longer limited to the original neighborhood. So troublesome. Fortunately, I have already transferred 400,000 yuan to her. Lu Qing criticized his mother silently and thought of his own savings. Since his personal coaching fee had increased to 3,000 yuan per hour, the previously enthusiastic crowd had become realistic and lost their enthusiasm. He had only earned a little more than 40,000 yuan in this area. Including the remaining 20,000 yuan from the part-time job and the original balance, after deducting all expenses, he still had more than 290,000 yuan left. He didn't have to worry about money for now. He browsed the post just now and wrote down the valuable replies. He planned to teach his mother over the phone tonight. He exited the post and scrolled down. He saw a popular post from Unparalleled Dragon King. The battle of the heavenly sons of the age is about to begin. Lu Qing versus Peng Liyun. There are still 2 months before the opening of the university martial arts competition, and at least 3 months before the battle with Shanbei. Someone is already paying attention to this matter, and it has become a hot topic in the Longhu Club forum. Lu Qing took a deep breath. At this moment, Old Chiu jumped up and cheered loudly. I got it! I got it! In the male dormitory of Shanbei University, Su Wanyan, the president of the martial arts club, stood downstairs, looking at his phone and browsing the Battle of the Heavenly Sons of the Age, forwarded by others. I'm looking forward to it. He sighed with great interest and then called Peng Liyun. Junior brother Peng, come down quickly. We're going to gather for training. We're all waiting for you. Okay. Peng Liyun said concisely. As soon as he finished his words, Su Wanyan saw a figure jump out of the window of a dormitory on the 5th floor. Not again. Su Wanyan covered his face and sighed. The freshmen screamed one after another. He jumped off the building. He jumped off the building. Someone jumped off the building. In midair, the figure suddenly expanded like a rock spreading its wings. It glided forward in a small margin. Then he landed firmly on the ground, which seemed to shake the surroundings. Let's go. Peng Liyun jumped to Su Wanyan's side and greeted him with a smile. Su Wanyan looked at the place where Peng Liyun had landed and found no obvious traces. He couldn't help but be shocked and worship junior brother Peng's strength again. He's getting stronger and stronger. The freshmen were silent as if they had seen a monster. At this moment, the dormitory manager rushed out of the door and shouted, Peng Liyun, why didn't you take the stairs again? What if you scared the others? Peng Liyun shrunk his shoulders and didn't show a cold expression. He just smiled and said, I was thinking about a problem. It was a difficult problem, so I took a shortcut. Shortcut? The freshmen around all opened their mouths wide. Su Wanyan held back his laughter and apologized to the dormitory manager. I'll take care of him, he said as he pulled Peng Liyun away from the crime scene. What do you think of this post? Since it was a daily thing, he didn't mention what had just happened and handed his phone to Peng Liyun. Peng Liyun read it and laughed in a low voice. It's very interesting. Just don't run into Lu Cheng. Yeah, I'm worried when I think of my supernatural ability being restrained by him. Fortunately, Xiaofeng's body has also become a big Dan. Su Wanyan sighed. After the supernatural ability of Corvine Mouth became stronger, he had a certain chance of winning against professional 8th pin, or even professional 7th pin. But if his supernatural ability lost its effect, his body as a top professional 9th pin fighter would definitely be no match for a mighty one of Dan's stage. He couldn't help gossiping. Junior brother Peng, when will you reach the inhuman level? I heard that Runli is about to reach professional 6th pin, and Lu Cheng is catching up very quickly. The competition for the champion of this year's martial arts competition was extremely fierce, but as long as junior brother Peng could reach high pin, everything would become simple again. As for whether Runli and Lu Cheng would reach the inhuman level in the next competition, it was not a problem for him to consider. I've already graduated. Peng Liyun's face was clean and his eyes were clear. He looked at the clouds in the sky and said, when will it be? His eyes gradually lost focus and his movements became sloppy, as if he was moving forward by instinct. But he could accurately avoid obstacles like trees, small stones, and frolicking students. Junior brother Peng is in a daze again, and he has evolved to be in a daze while walking. Su Wanyan sighed helplessly and stopped thinking about the martial arts competition. He shifted his thoughts to the gathering area of the nightclubs in Pingjiang City, and the girls with different characteristics. He pulled his collar, feeling a little hot. In the only university campus in Jiang City, Chu Hui, wearing a white shirt, floated 30 centimeters above the ground in the office of the martial arts club. He looked at the members in front of him and said with a faint smile, What do you think? What do you think of the discussion? The leading members and substitutes of the martial arts club were all silent, lowering their heads as if they had done something wrong. They didn't dare to speak. Luo Hei's you first. Chu Hui, who was also the coach of the martial arts club, had the authority to look down on others. Luo Hei's was tall and looked honest. The childishness on his face had disappeared. He touched Bangguang's head and said, Those animals of Songqing University are growing too fast. Last year they were just walk-ons, but this year they have 2 Dan stage fighters, and Lu Cheng is close to professional 7th pin. It was like a dream. In the martial arts circle of universities, there were indeed geniuses and strong fighters, but the number and foundation were not enough. Dan stage fighters were rare in most schools. After all, this was the real beginning of martial arts. In a strong school like Jiang City, none of the professional 9th pin fighters in the first few years had reached Big Dan and Qi by the time they graduated. This showed how difficult it was to reach Dan stage. But Songqing University Martial Arts Club had 2 Dan stage fighters in less than a year. Wasn't this bullying? This is other people's talent. You can't be envious. Chu Hui crossed his arms and said insincerely. Then he put on a serious face and said, Hey eyes, you're actually very talented. Even if you can't reach the inhuman level like Peng Liyun, Runli, Lu Cheng, and Lin Ke, you should at least reach Dan's stage now. But look at yourself. What the hell are you doing? You should stay away from those bad friends. Yes. Luo Hei's lowered his head. Being too shy to refuse people was his biggest flaw. After scolding Luo Hei's, Chu Hui looked at another member and frowned. Take it easy. You're also a person who has a chance to reach Dan's stage. Don't you want to go further before graduation? You'll live a good life in the future. Yin Xiangxi smiled bitterly and said, We've known each other for more than 3 years. Don't you know my character? His fighting style was aggressive. He would never defend unless he had no other choice. Even if the referee stopped him in time. He had been injured several times in the past few years. His martial arts practice lacked continuity, and his talent was gradually depleted. Both of them were troublesome. Chu Hui didn't say more. He stared at the phone on the desk like an eagle. When discussing the division, they only mentioned Shanbei and Songqing University, Peng Liyun, Feng Zhirong Lucheng, and Lin Quebec. They completely ignored Sanjiang School. They completely ignored Chu Hui's existence. Sorry, I've also reached Dan's stage, and my supernatural ability has improved. Shanbei, Songqing University, wait for my surprise. Chapter 300. 3 days later, when the freshmen started their military training, Lu Cheng, who had completely recovered from the backfire, stood by the Weishui Lake and looked at his master eagerly, waiting for him to teach him something about Dan's stage. In the last 2 morning exercises, he had focused on recovery cultivation. Geyser paced a few steps with his hands behind his back and laughed. Not bad, you didn't open your mouth until now. As for the training of Dan's stage, we all have a consensus that it is a link between the past and the future. How should I say this? First, from the concealment of spirit and qi, to the direct transformation of spirit and qi, to promote the gradual integration of spirit and qi with qi, blood and force, to prepare for the external connection between heaven and earth. Second, to break the limit of the body, to constantly exceed the normal quality, to inner training of root pulp, to achieve miraculous results. Third, on this basis, speed, coordination, control and reaction will be greatly improved, and you will be able to combine the basic force techniques and corresponding punches and feet into moves. Turn it into a move. Lu Qing asked in confusion. Don't I usually use moves? Geyser took out a small flagon, took a sip, smacked his lips and said, think about it, whether it's 24 blizzard strikes or thunder roars in, there's nothing fancy about the punches and feet, isn't there? It's mainly about the force techniques, the method of borrowing force, and corresponding visualization. It's just the most basic movements such as collapse, cannon, chop, whip, rush, punch, and so on. But in a fight, I will also combine them according to the situation. Don't these count as moves? Lu Qing vaguely understood his master's meaning. Yes, these are the basic moves. Why else would the fighting style of Dan's stage be a link between the past and the future? Geyser answered proudly. However, the moves of the Dan stage are the result of continuous improvement and refinement by generations of seniors. It's definitely better and more reasonable than your purely improvisational performance. The follow-up moves are all full of killing intent. Of course, you can't stick to the moves of your predecessors. No matter how strong they are, they still have to be used in actual combat. When you master them, you will be able to use them according to the situation at hand, and combine them at will. You will be considered a master in this aspect. Lu Qing asked blankly. Then what's the difference with me now? Both are specific responses to specific situations, and can be combined at will. Of course it's different. It's just like how you read books. One of you knows nothing, so you just sit there and let your imagination run wild, winning by slapping your head. The other one has comprehended the knowledge of his predecessors, and then started to think about his own things. Even if you happen to be involved in the same topic, it's still not the same. Geyser replied grumpily. The difference between a scientist and a civilian scientist. Lu Qing suddenly understood. Is this the 3 realms of seeing a mountain as a mountain, seeing a mountain as not a mountain, seeing a mountain as still a mountain? You're right. Geyser coughed twice. I'll start with visualization. You've already been exposed to the dance stage, so it shouldn't be too difficult to master it. In terms of mental cultivation, you need to develop from the condensation stance to the ice mirror. It doesn't matter if you haven't learned the basics of the ice mirror yet. You just need to slowly integrate what you know into the condensation stance. Master, I'm almost at the beginner level of ice mirror. Lu Qing happily reported his progress. After the initial integration of mental, qi, blood, and force, and with the foundation of meditation, he had gradually found the feeling of practicing the ice mirror. Although it wasn't rapid progress, it seemed that he was about to reach the threshold. At most half a year, at least 2 or 3 months, there was hope for him to learn the basics. That's not what I want to hear. Geezer glared at him. When you learn the basics of the ice mirror, your mental cultivation will focus on it. You can use it until you're close to the physical invulnerability. As for the internal training of the body, hey, you've also learned the frozen ground map and the frozen river map. They're the contents before the inhuman level. Isn't this the frost force? Lu Qing was confused. Geezer smiled proudly. The external force is the frost force, and the internal force is the body training method. Why else would it be called the core force of the ice sect? I didn't tell you before because your body isn't strong enough to withstand the internal force. Once you train, you'll be injured and destroyed. This is also why from the dance stage onwards, the martial arts practitioner's practice must be fixed. They must distinguish between the primary and the secondary. Force is the training method, which will affect the root pulp and change your body. If they're mixed and have conflicting natures, then the genes will collapse. Geezer, who was often in contact with military research, came up with a fashionable term. So it's like this. Lu Qing said thoughtfully. Master, I'm based on the balance of ice and fire. How can I prevent them from conflicting and causing problems with the root pulp? I don't have experience in this. Geezer's answer scared Lu Qing so much that he almost shivered. It's because you had to awaken the two supernatural abilities of ice and fire, and mix them with the things of cultivation. Before Lu Qing asked again, he smiled and said, But it's not a problem. Your root pulp has changed long ago. Otherwise, how can you have supernatural abilities? Moreover, your supernatural abilities of ice and fire are under the influence of Longhu Immortal's relics and your Dan equilibrium. Haven't they been peaceful and without conflict? This shows that the foundation has been mixed and your body has adapted. As long as the difference between the two isn't to the extent that you lose control, your genes won't collapse. That scared me. Lu Qing wiped the non-existent cold sweat. Master, so I have to follow the fire attribute martial arts in the future? Yes, it's the same when you reach the physical invulnerability stage. Geezer nodded leisurely. Lu Qing was curious. Then what's the physical invulnerability force that corresponds to Zhu Rong force? How do I get it? Fire force, Emperor Yen force. Geezer answered with a smile. Emperor Yen force. Why does it sound so familiar? Lu Qing blurted out. It'd be strange if it didn't. It's the Dragon King's specialty. Geezer coughed twice, straightened his body and put his hands behind his back. Oh right. Lu Qing unconsciously spoke like Yenjika. When two people have been together for a long time, they would always influence each other in some aspects. After saying that, he realized something and asked in astonishment. This is the martial arts of the fire sect? The fire sect. The divine kung fu of the fire sect in the 5-sect unique skills of Taoism. It was different from the ice sect unique skill of the ice sect. It was called the fire sect itself. Yes, I've wasted a lot of my reputation and favors. Geezer nodded proudly, satisfied with his silly disciple's reaction. Lu Qing was touched, but he knew that his master didn't want to hear words of gratitude. So he played along and said, Master, you're so awesome. You can even get the martial arts of the fire sect. Master's face is a little old. Cough, it's still worth a lot. Geezer coughed happily and added. And some people think highly of you, maybe they... What? Lu Qing asked. Nothing, just a casual remark. Geezer said carelessly. Let's continue with what we just said. The internal withdrawal is the reverse. First, we'll use the frozen river diagram, then the frozen ground diagram to influence the body. We'll practice more subtle things and gradually interfere with the root pulp. When we reach the inhuman level, we'll be able to change it little by little. He explained the inner practice of the Dan stage in detail, and laid out the differences between the frost force and the Zhu Rong force. He gave a thorough explanation so that his disciple wouldn't make a mistake. After Lu Qing tried a few times and confirmed that there were no problems, he continued to explain. There are two kinds of martial arts in the Dan stage. One is the combination of martial arts that I just mentioned. The other is close to physical invulnerability. When the force can be transformed into a substance and released from the body, It's the rough application of the force. Your supernatural ability is similar to this state. You can practice it in advance, although it won't be as powerful. You can practice 3 martial arts in the next few months. Gizershur's face suddenly became serious. Lu Qing held his breath and waited for his master to announce the 3 martial arts. Gizershur cleared his throat and said, "The 13th move of the ice sect, vast snow. The 19th move, cold bite. The 26th move, ice burning." Hearing his master's words, Lu Qing was excited and had an inexplicable feeling at the same time. This is the treatment of a disciple of a big sect. From this step onwards, even if he lost the Jindan, he would be able to shake off his previous opponents, such as Zhang Zhutong and Han Jifei. With this blessing and gratitude, Lu Qing was very focused on practicing. Unknowingly, he heard his master say, "Well, you can practice by yourself for a while. Remember, the special training officially starts today. Don't be late." Lu Qing thought of something and stopped being arrogant. "Master, have you prepared the internal training method for the martial arts club?" He Ku and brother-in-law had it, but the others didn't. "I'm still thinking about it." Gizershur took a sip of wine. Lu Qing smiled. "Master, you don't have to worry about it. I've prepared one for everyone." "Where did you get it?" Gizershur looked at his disciple from head to toe. "Didn't I go to Xioshan to guide the special training? When I left, the chairman wanted to give me a reward. I thought that everyone still needs the internal training method, so I suggested using their special training method instead. Although it's not very good, it's enough." Lu Qing explained with a smile. And this method could not only be used on his teammates in the martial arts club, but also on his friends and family. If they really wanted to follow this path but couldn't enter the Ice God sect, he wouldn't have to worry about not having something to teach them. Gizershur snorted. "With your little contribution, you can exchange it for the internal training method? You only teach for 1 day a week." I also felt embarrassed and thought that I might ask for more money. In the end, Chairman Wei agreed immediately. "He's a good person." Lu Qing praised. "He's a good person. Anyway, the internal training method doesn't belong to his family. It's a good deal to use the foundation's things to make friends with a potential master like you," Gizershur said with a smile. Lu Qing laughed dryly and didn't answer. Ku had already analyzed this for him. "Then give me the diagram of the internal training method later." Gizershur turned around. "I didn't expect you to care so much about the martial arts club. The internal training method at this level didn't touch on the essence and charm." Lu Qing smiled and said, "We have a weak foundation. If we want to catch up with the strong martial arts schools, we have to make good use of everyone." "You're so ambitious," Gizershur scolded jokingly. Hey, Master, don't tell them the internal training method was provided by you. I'm afraid they'll feel uncomfortable when they see me in the future," Lu Qing requested. "Yo, you're doing a good deed without leaving your name? Okay, that's it." Gizershur waved his hand and walked to the long bridge. "This is a kind of state," Lu Qing complained and turned back to train his strength. Chapter 301. After breakfast, Lu Qing took Yenjika's hand and walked to the martial arts arena happily, preparing for the first special training of the new semester. Feeling the strange gazes of the passing students, he couldn't help but sigh secretly. "I haven't shown my love like this for a long time. It's so different to be able to date openly in school." "What are you laughing at?" Yenjika slightly raised her eyebrows and glanced at him in confusion. Lu Qing laughed and said, "I'm proud to have a little fairy." Ugh. Yenjika couldn't help but laugh, feeling that Chung was really a hidden joker. The more time she spent with him, the more she felt this. Her mood improved again. Well, the sky was blue and the wind was clear. While talking and laughing, they arrived at the arena and walked through the gate. They saw several figures that shouldn't be here at this time. The leader was wearing a white shirt, a light gray suit, and a skirt. She had a slim figure and an outstanding appearance. Her short hair was just right, refreshing and pretty. She was Xu Rui, the reporter of Songqing TV station who had interviewed the martial arts club several times. Beside her, a small team was busy preparing for the shooting. Lu Qing and Yenjika looked at each other and saw the doubt in each other's eyes. Then they tacitly unclasped their hands to avoid being caught by the camera. Hi Lucheng. Xu Rui looked around and found an acquaintance. She immediately waved and greeted him happily. Reporter Xu, you're here for an interview so early? Lucheng walked over curiously and asked. Yenjika followed him obediently with her hands behind her back and pricked up her ears. Xu Rui showed her dimples and said with a smile, "It's not an interview. It's a program recording." A program recording? Lucheng blurted out in surprise. What kind of program is there to record? Xu Rui showed her 8 teeth and said, "You and Lin Ke have become the top group in the whole university martial arts circle. Songqing University Martial Arts Club will definitely advance in the division, and even have the hope to enter the Final Four. You're the focus of everyone's attention. Haha, let me say good luck first. As the TV station of Songqing, how can we miss this focus? The leader has approved me to do a special program." Special. Lucheng pondered over the word. Yenjika was also confused. Xu Rui chuckled. It's a documentary-type program. From now until April next year, I'll come here every few days to film something. I'll record your special training, practice, preparation, warm-ups, competitions, as well as your daily life. I'll show you your true selves from all aspects. When the time comes, I'll use this as material to make a special topic for you to participate in the national competition. Such a program. Lucheng thought for a while and said, "It sounds interesting. I've done some research, and many people are interested." Xu Rui replied with a smile. "This program was planned by me, I planned it." Yenjika pursed her lips with a smile and watched quietly. She seemed to have seen reporter Xu's cocky tail. "We'll try our best to cooperate," Lucheng said politely and pointed to the team. "I'll go over and gather first." "No. Don't worry. It's just a coincidence that we met. Just a few words, just a few words. Student Yan, you can say something later." Xu Rui pointed the camera at Lucheng and Yenjika dodged to the side. All right. Lucheng was a veteran who had been through hundreds of battles, so he wasn't scared at all. Xu Rui smiled and said, "Be normal. Just like how you greeted me just now. Hey Lucheng, you're early." "It's late. Reporter Xu, you're all here." Lucheng made a joke. "You're in a good mood. You feel relaxed and full of motivation. Do you have a goal for this year's National University Martial Arts Competition?" Xu Rui asked with a smile. "A soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good driver," Lucheng answered humorously. "Got it. I won't delay your special training. Bye." Xu Rui waved her hand. Bye. Lucheng walked to the team and greeted Kai Zongming, Li Mao, Guoqing Sunjian, Lin Hua, Jiang Fuxing, Li Xiaowen and Wu Meng. Yenjika was stopped by Xu Rui and had to stop. "Student Yan, you're a real beauty. You don't have to worry about going on camera without makeup or Photoshop." Xu Rui conducted the interview with a relaxed attitude. "I'm not worried about that." Yenjika blinked her eyes and answered innocently. Xu Rui smiled and said, "You rarely accept interviews before, so it's inevitable that I have an illusion. I was a substitute at that time. There was no need for me to be in the limelight," Yenjika said naturally. "As a substitute, have you prepared for this year's National University Martial Arts Competition?" Xu Rui went back to the topic. Yenjika's eyes lit up and said, "Yes, but there's still a long way to go. I hope I can be close to the level of a professional ninth pin before the district competition." She wasn't modest or exaggerating. "Wow, that's great. I'm so envious." Xu Rui made a gesture and said, "Student Yan, you can do it." "Thank you." Yenjika bowed politely and walked toward the team with her graceful back. At this moment, Lin Ke walked out of the locker room, looking clean and fresh. Xu Rui signaled the cameraman to follow him and walked up to him with a nervous smile. "Hi, Student Lin Quebec." She hoped he was in a good mood today. "It's you again." Lin Ke glanced at her. What did he mean by again? Xu Rui's mouth twitched. Was he mocking her for being a reporter for more than a year? Was he still interviewing Songqing University Martial Arts Club? But it was rare to be promoted after working for more than a year. Especially when she ignored some of the leader's hints, she curved her lips and said with a fake smile, "Yes, it's me again." I'm just a reporter who has to support my family. I have to follow the leader's orders, so I can only come here obediently. Good luck. Lin Kei replied with 2 words without any expression, and walked past the camera without stopping. Good luck? Who was interviewing who? Xu Rui was stunned for a moment. This guy never played by the rules. A few minutes later, Geyser arrived and pointed the camera at everyone. We've known each other for almost a year. Let's cut the crap and get to the point. Geyser drank a mouthful of wine. This semester, we only have one goal, which is to qualify for the University Martial Arts Club division and get a pass to the final round of the competition in the capital in April next year. Then he coughed and glanced at Lu Cheng. And for this goal, I've prepared an internal training method for you. Internal training method? Li Mao blurted out, surprised and happy. Kai Zhongming was also stunned. He looked at Lu Cheng and Guoqing with disbelief written all over his face. Internal training methods were priceless. There were only 3 ways to get an internal training method without entering a relevant sect or excellent martial arts school. The first was to participate in professional competitions and get it from the rewards. The second was to make a contribution and get it from the government. The third was to accumulate contribution points and exchange it from the Martial Arts Association. Most of the methods in the market were fake. The government and martial arts circle were suppressing the merchants who could spread the internal training method widely in order to maintain their own interests. In other words, if a martial artist without an inheritance got an internal training method, he could use it to teach his disciples. If he was short of money, he could sell it to anyone. But if he wanted to sell it to 2, 3, or 4 people, he would be warned. It was a continuation of the bad practice of martial arts. From the time Chu Weikai opened his martial arts school until now, he hadn't been able to get an internal training method for so many years. Of course, this was only difficult for ordinary martial artists. After Li Mao succeeded in meditation, he felt that he could really get a professional 9th pin certificate within a year. At that time, he would be in his senior year and would have an advantage in finding a job. Occasionally, he would fantasize about getting an internal training method from the martial arts club. In that case, he might be able to become a professional 9th pin in half a year or a few months. Then he could get a few more methods and open a martial arts school in his small hometown. However, he just thought about it and didn't think it would really happen. But now, in front of his eyes, the internal training method was really in front of him. How could he not be excited? How could he not be ecstatic? He wanted to cheer and shout, "Long live Coach Shi." He was like that, and so was Kai Zhongming. Although Talker came from a good family, he didn't have many connections in martial arts. After he succeeded in meditation, he tried to get an internal training method, but he failed miserably. He wanted to talk to Cheng after school started and see if he had any connections. With the internal training method at this age, I might be able to walk the path of martial arts and make my own life. Sun Jian, Lin Hua, Wu Meng, Li Xiaowen and the others were also very happy. Although they didn't succeed in meditation and couldn't practice the most essential part of the internal training method, just the rest of the content could save them a lot of time and effort. For example, Li Xiaowen, who used to only aim at the level of amateur 3rd pin by graduation and get a good certificate, now she could look forward to getting the amateur 1st pin in her 4th year. In this way, her future life might be completely different. What? You don't want it? Geyser made a joke. Yes. Li Mao, Kai Zhongming and the others answered in unison. They were excited and beaming. Seeing their reaction, Lu Cheng and Yanjika looked at each other and felt a strong sense of achievement and satisfaction. Although they didn't know that the internal training method was provided by them and they thanked their master, why did they feel so happy? Ha 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 ha. Maybe this is the spiritual enjoyment of doing a good deed without leaving a name? Xu Rui watched with great interest and asked the cameraman to record the situation just now. In the following daily training, they recorded a lot of videos and went outside to shoot a lot of environmental materials. Then they came back in and prepared to leave. At this time, Geyser announced the start of the practice. According to the usual grouping, Lu Cheng found Yanjika. When he was about to talk about the recording of the program, he saw Lin Kei come over with no expression. He said with gloomy eyes, "Let's learn from each other." There seemed to be two flames in the depths of his eyes, flames ignited by a strong desire to fight. Lu Cheng thought that with the arrogance of his brother-in-law, he might take the initiative to learn from him. He was not surprised and answered with a smile. Okay. Chapter 302. Xu Rui, who was about to retreat, saw the scene and heard the conversation between the two. Her eyes lit up. Breaking news. Breaking news. A direct confrontation between two heavenly sons. Who's stronger and who's weaker on the first day of the special training? Is the competition in Songqing University Martial Arts Club always so exciting? She stopped in her tracks and became excited. Her eyes shone as she signaled to the cameraman to find a better position and grab the golden spot next to the ring. At this moment, Geyser turned around and said, "Miss Xu, aren't you leaving?" Xu Rui pretended not to understand what the other party was implying. She pitifully acted cute and said, "Take another picture, take another picture." "That won't do. The competition later involves the secret of our martial arts club's preparation. We have to clear the venue." Geyser was well informed and didn't get confused. He smiled and went straight to the point. Xu Rui pretended to be wronged and said, "Coach Shi, we're not outsiders. Not only the local TV station, but we've also interviewed you many times. We'll keep it a secret and won't spread the news. Before the program is broadcast, we'll ask you to go through it and see if there's anything that shouldn't be shown." No. Shi Zhengwo smiled and shook his head. "We'll sign a guarantee." Xu Rui raised her arm. Geyser was unmoved. "Go out and leave some suspense for the program." "Okay." Feeling the firm will of this mighty one with physical invulnerability, Xu Rui replied dejectedly and led the cameraman out of the door. She walked 3 times in one step and almost stepped all the ants on the ground. Just as she walked out of the stadium, she heard hurried footsteps behind her. She was delighted and thought that Coach Shi had changed his mind. "If you don't forget, there will be an echo." Xu Rui turned her head and saw Kai Zongming. She smiled and said, "New president. Why are you following me?" Kai Zongming looked at her with appreciation and spread his hands helplessly. "Lock the door. Lock the door." Xu Rui stared blankly at him. She watched the door close inch by inch in front of her. She heard a clang and the sound of the lock cylinder being buckled. The wind blew and her hair rose and fell. After a long time, she turned around and greeted the cameraman and the others. She said in a languid tone, "Let's go." "Xu, don't worry about it. This kind of thing is very common. Who would let an outsider film an internal competition? Isn't this leaking military secrets?" The beauty frowned. The cameraman wasn't heartless and couldn't help but comfort her. "I understand." Xu Rui regained her vitality and narrowed her eyes with a smile. "It's just that I don't know if I should say a curse word." Wu Meng and Jiang Fuxing cooperated with Li Xiaowen to invite all the students who were doing fitness exercises in the gymnasium to the strength training gymnasium. They asked them to stay inside for the time being and use the equipment to kill time. They went outside and surrounded the ring, waiting for the start of the competition with great interest. This seemed to have become a tradition in the martial arts club, right? The first day of the special training last term was also the duel between Lin Ke and Lu Cheng. That time, Lin Ke won, but Lu Cheng grew stronger at an incredible speed. He even won the championship of their provincial youth tournament, and was considered to have the strength of a 7th pin fighter. This time, who would be better than him? They didn't think that Lin Ke had a 100% chance of winning. After all, Lin Ke had entered the Dan stage in June. After 3 months of hard work, it was hard for outsiders to predict his current level. Who knew how far he had progressed? Yan Zhika, on the other hand, knew about both sides. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she swallowed the words back into her stomach. This kind of thing should be solved by themselves. This was the purity of a martial artist. No matter how close they were, others shouldn't interfere. Based on her understanding of Lu Cheng and Lin Ke, she was sure that they would go all out in the competition, regardless of other factors. Lu Cheng smiled at his girlfriend and stepped into the ring. He was actually very curious about how much his brother-in-law had improved in the past 2 months. The practice method of the dance stage? The corresponding moves? He seemed to be an official disciple of Shushan's study. It was said that he had the ability to observe the fighting sect. It's a pity that I've only been exposed to similar martial arts since this morning, and haven't had time to make any progress. I've only skipped the most difficult part because I can use my supernatural ability to replace it. I've mastered it pretty quickly. Lu Cheng's thoughts were running wild as he stood on the left side of his master. Showing his strongest side was the only way to show respect to his brother-in-law. Lin Ke was already waiting there. His eyes were indifferent and burning, which was quite contradictory. If it's just a competition, there's no time to talk. Geezer sure coughed. Let's start. As soon as he finished his words, Lin Ke's chi and blood gathered and released. His whole body was like a cannonball, blasting towards his opponent. His speed was so fast that Lu Cheng almost had the illusion that his brother-in-law was breaking the sound barrier. Bang! The explosion of the airflow and Lin Ke's figure almost arrived at the same time. Lu Cheng didn't have time to dodge, nor did he have time to use severe warning. He lowered his center of gravity, gathered all the strength in his body, and expanded his muscles and fascia. Instead of retreating, he took a step forward and threw out a right fist from his waist. Let's see which is better, my dance stage version of 24 Blizzard Strikes or your dance stage Yin-Yang Twist. Just as the two of them were about to collide into each other and create a car accident, Lin Ke suddenly stopped. A loud grinding sound came from under his feet, and his right arm swelled up. He clenched his fist and punched out. It was so fast that it left afterimages behind. But this punch didn't stop Lu Cheng's attack. Instead, it hit the empty space between them. Boom. With Lin Ke's punch as the starting point, it was like a small bomb had been detonated. The shockwave wrapped in the airflow rushed towards Lu Cheng violently, trying to tear his body apart. Punching like exploding a mountain. The 27th move of the fighting sect, Meteor Burst. Lu Cheng was shocked. He pulled and released his right fist and his left arm bounced up, opening his 5 fingers and blocking the vital part of his face. He swayed back in the wind of the shockwave, cleverly releasing the force to resist. After the first move, Lin Ke made 2 consecutive bursts. He supported himself with his right leg and stepped forward with his left foot, as if plowing the ground. Bang! The ground he stepped on was intact. But under Lu Cheng's feet, the surface of the ring cracked like a volcanic eruption. The fragments turned into hidden weapons and shot up. The 16th move of the fighting sect, ground cracking. Lu Cheng was swaying to resist the shockwave. Suddenly, he lost his center of gravity and was facing many flying fragments that could hurt him. At the critical moment, he bent his thigh and breathed heavily. He first did the Dan concentration to soften his muscles and remove most of the power of the hidden weapons. Then he completed the explosion, expanding his muscles and skin, turning the surface blue and black, and bouncing off the fragments one by one. At this time, Lin Ke wouldn't just watch him defend. He was already close to him, stretching out his right hand and opening his 5 fingers to grab him. Combo attack. In the fighting sect, if one could make 7 consecutive moves, combining long-range and short-range attacks, it would be a famous physical invulnerability move. The 6th move of the fighting sect, Big Dipper main kill. If one could only make 5, 4 or even 3 consecutive moves, it would be a lower move. Of course, this lower move was only relatively speaking. The effect was equally terrible because there were only 9 moves in the physical invulnerability section of the fighting sect. What Lin Ke was using now was the elementary version. The 10th move of the fighting sect, Death End. Seeing his brother-in-law's right hand about to grab him and complete the combo attack, Lu Cheng suddenly exhaled. He lowered his right hand, hooked it and shook it. A glittering and translucent white light landed on the ground and rapidly swam towards Lin Ke, who was pouncing towards him. The 26th move of the ice sect, Ice Burning. Chapter 303. Lu Cheng's crystal-cold light dashed across the ground and instantly hit his opponent. Wherever it passed, it left behind traces of frost, as if it had dragged the autumn into early winter. Lin Ke felt as if he had stepped on a landmine. His left leg was enveloped by a snow-white flame that condensed into a layer of crystal-clear ice. He couldn't help but shiver, and his grasping motion slowed down. Now is the time. Lu Cheng's body swayed and circled to the side of his brother-in-law. His qi, blood, and force were still rushing outwards, propping up his muscles and tendons, making him taller. Bam! His right hand was like a steel whip, whipping downwards with a surge of vibration force. The friction in the air produced a sharp, ear-piercing sound. At this distance, he wasn't worried that Lin Ke would dodge. The scene just now made Li Mao, Sun Jian, and the others stunned. They felt as if they were watching a battle between physical and vulnerability experts. Since when could Cheng release his supernatural ability of frost? When he fought in the provincial youth tournament at the beginning of August, the last 2 matches were so tough, but they didn't see him use this move. In just a month, his supernatural ability had made another breakthrough and completed a new generation? No wonder Coach Shi asked reporter Xu and the others to leave. This was indeed a secret that could give Shanbei a surprise. In the arena, Lin Ke seemed to be still under the influence of ice burning. He subconsciously pulled back the left side of his body in an attempt to dodge. Lu Cheng's single whip hit him directly in the ribs. Crack. His body trembled violently. His bones, muscles, skin, and tendons collapsed and contracted along with his qi, blood, and force. It was as if Lu Cheng had hit empty space. It was extremely uncomfortable, and the vibration from the explosion seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Lin Ke twisted his waist and back, spurting out his big Dan. His muscles bulged one by one, rubbing against the airflow at high speed, creating a sound that converged into a heart-shaking roar. Yin-yang twist, dragon roar. Amidst the roar, Lin Ke used part of his borrowed strength to swing his arms and punch his opponent's lower abdomen within a narrow range. When he was imitating the explosion of the dance stage, he could still use the meteor force. However, once he completed the real force concentration, he wouldn't be able to do it at the moment. The distance between them was so close that they could hear each other's breathing. Lu Qing knew that if he had been passive once, he would continue to be passive. In a narrow space, courage was the most important thing. Therefore, he clenched his teeth and made 2 consecutive bursts with the will of the brave. His right arm swelled and lifted, and his fist met the attack head-on. Bang! The air billowed and stirred up a strong wind in the arena. Lu Qing shook his torso and swung his right arm back, trying to use the force to launch the mega avalanche. However, he felt that everything was empty and powerless. But Lin Ke's body didn't stop trembling. He swayed and bounced like a puppet, condensing the external force and his own strength. With the power of Mount Tai in the North Sea, he turned his body sideways, inflated his martial arts suit, and turned into a shooting star, quickly and violently crashing into his opponent. This was the combination of the dance stage version of yin-yang twist and force concentration. Double explosion. Woo! With a rip in the wind, Lin Ke turned into an iron mountain, and was about to stick to Lu Cheng. The distance between them was less than a step. Lu Cheng's center of gravity swayed, and he leaned to the side a little. He lowered his body and avoided the sharp edge of the leaning attack. His right leg kicked out, aiming for the opponent's weak point in the lower body. He wanted to take advantage of the situation to make Lin Ke lose his center of gravity and fall down himself. At this moment, Lin Ke's body suddenly stopped, just like at the beginning of the match. He came to a sudden stop. The sound of friction was ear-piercing, and the clear traces were frightening. He gathered his strength and stopped right in front of Lu Cheng's right leg. Immediately after, Lin Ke took a step forward and skillfully bypassed the attack. His left arm, which was dragging behind, hammered out from the bottom. From a standstill to a rapid speed, it was so aggressive that it could shatter gold and break stone. He relied on the mysteries of yin-yang twist and meteor burst to forcefully continue the terror of force concentration and leveraging force until this moment. Facing this, Lu Qing made a decision in an instant. He returned his qi and blood to his dantian. Expressionlessly, he reached down with both hands and opened up the dark blue veins and small muscles. He grabbed Lin Ke's fist with one hand and pushed it down diagonally with the other. Bam! His right hand was hit and flung back. His 5 fingers couldn't stop trembling. Fortunately, there was a push from the side and a hollow palm to divert the force, so he didn't end up with broken bones. Even so, he didn't dare to take it head-on. Following the momentum of the fling, he took 2 steps back. Lin Ke had succeeded in one move. He stomped his feet hard and rushed to Lu Cheng's front faster than he retreated. At this moment, Lu Cheng suddenly sighed, and once again used force concentration to return his qi and blood to his dantian, stabilizing his body's center of gravity. His martial arts suit expanded without wind, outlining his muscles. He bounced his left shoulder, and shook out his arm. His fist exploded the air, and shot towards Lin Ke's chest and abdomen like lightning. Lin Ke blocked the attack with both hands and tried to visualize and adjust his body again, using the yin-yang twist to divert the force. However, without using the Dan stage explosion, there was a substantial gap between him and Lu Cheng's attack. He was only able to divert a little of the force and was knocked back. Lu Cheng took a step forward and caught up with him. Thunder roar then combined with continuous explosion and hit him again. Bam! Lin Ke's body trembled violently and his eyes were dizzy. He was frozen in place. Without waiting for his master to announce the result, Lu Cheng withdrew his hand and sighed inwardly. If it weren't for the fact that his brother-in-law's breakthrough to the limit of his body hadn't reached the level of qualitative change, and was still at the level of a normal professional 8th pin in the Dan stage, he wouldn't be able to perform more continuous explosion. A normal professional 8th pin in the Dan stage could perform double explosion at most. Only Zhou Zhengquan, who practiced martial arts that nourished his body and improved his endurance, could perform triple explosion. Although Qiu Lin and Meng Jiefeng, whom Lu Cheng had met before, were both professional 8th pin, they were more experienced and their physical state was close to that of a professional 7th pin. Even so, Lu Cheng still had a deep impression of Lin Ke's first wave of combo moves. They showed him a very different fighting style from the past. If it wasn't for the breakthrough in his power of frost and the initial mastery of ice burning, which interrupted his brother-in-law's combo, he would most likely have lost. Is this the strength of a Dan stage expert with inheritance? His brother-in-law has such a great performance in actual combat after only breaking through 3 months ago. What about Peng Liyun, who was in the Dan stage 2 years ago and inherited the unique skills of the Thunder sect, who was about to get the certificate of 6th pin? This wasn't something that could be understood just by watching videos. If he didn't try it himself, he wouldn't be able to understand it deeply. Thinking of this, Lu Cheng, who had been in the mood since he won the youth tournament, completely disappeared. He had underestimated Peng Liyun before. He collected his thoughts and calmed down. He looked at Lin Ke, who was standing there in a daze and panting. He smiled sincerely and said, "You have to find a way to make up for your weakness in physical strength." He knew that his brother-in-law was arrogant and autistic, so he might as well give him a suggestion directly. Lin Ke calmed down and didn't say anything. He turned around and walked down the stone steps. When he was about to go down, he stopped and nodded slightly. Lu Cheng exhaled and turned his head to look at Yinzhika. He saw that the girl's expression was complicated, full of emotions and sighs. Lin Ke was her idol since childhood. In late September, the military training ended. Yan Xiaoling took He Zi and Mu Jinyan to the square in a hurry. Today was the day that all the clubs were recruiting new members. They didn't hesitate. They weren't attracted by the cosplay or the advertisement. They went straight to the booth of the martial arts club and saw many students there, almost lining up. "Oh, you came so early, but you still have to wait." Yan Xiaoling rolled her fists under her eyes and pretended to cry. She was already familiar with her roommates. "It's because someone got up late." He Zi spread her hands helplessly. She had changed her style today. She wore a cartoon t-shirt, shorts, sneakers and carried a backpack. Only the round glasses on her face were still the same. "Well, I'm too tired after the military training." Yan Xiaoling stood in line and saw Kai Zongming, who was hosting the booth. Just as she was thinking whether to go through the back door shamelessly, Mu Jinyan patted her shoulder and pointed in another direction. "Hey, your idol is here." "Ah, idol? Lu Cheng." Yan Xiaoling quickly turned her head and looked over. She saw the figure that she used to see through the screen appear beside the stall to help. He was more elegant in person. He was alive, he was alive. Yan Xiaoling cheered and jumped behind He Zi, turning into a quail in an instant. "What should I do? What should I do?" Lucheng is there. Didn't you say you would rush to Lucheng and ask for his autograph and photo? Izzy turned back and asked. I'm nervous. I can't even say a word. Yan Xiaoling lowered her head and looked at her toes, peeking at Lucheng from time to time. Box, help me ask for it, help me ask for it. Izzy stared at her. If you didn't recognize me as your father, I wouldn't help you. How many fathers have I recognized? Yan Xiaoling thought of this question inexplicably. Izzy took the paper notebook and pen from Mu Jinyan and ran to Lucheng. She smiled and said, "Hello, can I have your autograph?" Lucheng had already seen Yan Xiaoling, but in order not to expose his habit of reading the fan forum, he pretended not to recognize her. He nodded and smiled. Okay. He took the notebook and quickly signed his name. Izzy thought for a while and asked again, "Can you write for the quail?" Sure. Lucheng agreed readily to thank Yan Xiaoling for her contribution to the forum. He quickly wrote here, and then froze in place. What's wrong? Izzy asked, puzzled. No, nothing. Let me check my phone. Lucheng gave a hollow laugh. Damn. How do I write for the quail? Chapter 304. Lucheng pretended to be calm, pretending to reply to a message. He typed the word quail on his mobile phone and memorized it in his mind. He wrote it on the tip of his pen, looking very accomplished. Done. He handed the notebook back to Izzy, sweating in his heart. To be honest, he could write the word quail when he was in his senior year of high school. But when he went to college, he got used to the keyboard and often forgot to write. That was the most knowledgeable period of his life. Izzy looked at Lucheng suspiciously and thanked him with a smile. She went back to the end of the line, tore off the signature page, and gave it to Yan Xiaoling. Weak chicken, she said. Yan Xiaoling was overjoyed and said exaggeratedly, Box, I admire you. I worship you. Her voice was crisp and delicate, like a primary school student talking. Izzy and Mu Jinyan looked at each other and replied with a blank face, I don't need weak chicken's admiration. Yan Xiaoling was used to being criticized, so she didn't mind. She peeked at Lucheng and said worriedly, Why do I feel that his face is a little pale? Is he sick? With his current physique, it's hard for him to get sick unless he's injured or affected by the unique skills of the plague sect. Mu Jinyan answered calmly. She was a hardcore fan of Lin Ke and treated Lucheng like a passerby. Maybe something went wrong during training or sparring. Izzy's imagination ran wild as she came up with 100,000 scenarios in her mind. With Lucheng's current hearing, he could hear the conversation clearly at this distance. He couldn't help but shake his head with a wry smile. If I hadn't awakened the power of Blaze for the second time yesterday, I wouldn't have been sent here to help Little Ming recruit new members because of the backlash and the double prohibition of training by both my master and Coach Yan. Lucheng's improvement of his power of frost had slightly changed his root pulp, which further improved his physical quality. He had reached the standard for the second awakening of his power of blaze a few days earlier than Geysershire had expected at the beginning of October. After this awakening, Lucheng's strength, speed, and agility would officially catch up with an ordinary professional 7th pin fighter of the Dan stage. As time passed, the line moved. Yan Xiaoling and the other two came to the booth and faced Kai Zhongming and Li Xiaowen. Oh, it's you guys? Xiaoming smiled amiably and casually handed over 3 membership forms. Yan Xiaoling was not nervous or shy about him. She giggled and said, Does joining the martial arts club give me an autograph? She didn't mention Lucheng directly because her idol was nearby. It's a complimentary gift. Come, I'll sign one for you. Keep it well. It'll be worth a lot of money in the future. Kai Zhongming joked. The atmosphere suddenly became relaxed. Yan Xiaoling picked up the pen and began to fill in the form. In the field of martial arts rank, she felt inferior for 30 seconds and drew a slash. Every time I had a holiday, I would spend most of my time in bed. How would I have the time and energy to exercise? Not to mention practicing martial arts. After she was done, she looked around curiously to see how her roommates were doing. Box, martial arts level, amateur 2nd pin. Air. Jinyan, martial arts level, amateur 3rd pin. Yan Xiaoling opened her mouth little by little, and turned it into an O shape. When did they become so powerful? They were all of amateur third pin. I'm the only weakling, at this moment. A joke flashed through her mind. Thank you roommates for not killing me. Kai Zhongming took back the form and glanced at it. Then he smiled brightly. Welcome to the martial arts club. When the holiday comes back, we'll have the welcoming party. I'll call you when the time is fixed. Wow, President, you weren't so enthusiastic before. Yan Xiaoling was surprised and joked. Kai Zhongming put on a serious face and said seriously, that's nonsense. Isn't that obvious? I've already confirmed your identities through the form. How can I not treat you well? What identity? Yan Xiaoling looked at He Zi and Mu Jinyan blankly, and found that they were also confused. Is my identity of living for more than 10 years actually fake? Am I the biological daughter of Taobao's father? Kai Zhongming laughed. The identity of the successor of the communist cause. Not only Yan Xiaoling and He Zi burst into laughter at the same time, but also other students joined in. This president is so interesting. When the people at the booth were a little less, Kai Zhongming slipped to Lu Cheng and said, Cheng, the quality of this newcomer is good. Do you mean the martial arts level or the appearance? Lu Cheng looked at Talker suspiciously. Damn, how can you doubt my chastity? Besides, aren't we the peak of the appearance? There's your girl Lin Kei and me. We're the super platinum generation. Kai Zhongming struck a pose and said, It's only been an hour and I've already found 4 newcomers of amateur third pin. Well, their quality is quite high. Lu Cheng's eyes lit up and he praised with joy. The martial arts club in the university was different from the professional teams. Every year, there would be people graduating, so the quality of the newcomers was very important to maintain the competitiveness. Although Lu Cheng and the others could say, After I die, I don't care about the flood. Once they graduated, they wouldn't have to worry about the aftermath. However, after a year of fighting side by side and the encouragement of come again next time, they had developed feelings for the martial arts club and the school. They consciously took up the responsibility of passing on their knowledge. Generally speaking, they're actually stronger than our batch. Haha, don't look at me like that. When we just started recruiting, you were still a nobody with no rank, strength and knowledge. Kai Zhongming said sarcastically. That's right. In our batch, other than Lin Kei, who is a professional 9th pin fighter, the strongest one in our batch is only of amateur 5th pin. Lu Cheng refused to admit defeat. My brother-in-law can beat 10 people by himself. Kai Zhongming didn't answer directly. He thought for a while and said, I think the quality of the next batch of newcomers may be stronger. Think about it, when this batch of newcomers applied, our martial arts club only participated in the division selection, and made it to the knockout round. Lin Kei, who is about to reach professional 8th pin and dance stage, has the appeal. You're just a potential genius with abnormal physical strength. You can only attract so many people. Wait until next year, there will definitely be strong newcomers who will consider our school. Well, good results in the national finals, and the provision of the internal training method. Just these 2 points alone will definitely make geniuses choose us. Lu Cheng stood up and moved his body, looking forward to the future. Until now he still didn't think he was a genius, although others kept saying so. After the long vacation mid-October, the alarm clock rang. Yan Xiaoling woke up from her sleep, and struggled to get out of bed. She sat in a daze for a while and finally understood why she woke up so early. This morning was the welcoming day of the martial arts club. She quickly opened He Zi's mosquito net next door and shouted, Box, box, wake up, wake up. When the mosquito net was opened, there was a black cat sitting on the side railing. It had green eyes and a look of disdain. Yan Xiaoling was stunned for a moment and said in shock, I knew there was a cat. Box, you are a cat. There are really monsters in the world. Just as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She hurriedly turned her head to look at the door, only to see He Zi standing there after washing up. She looked back at the black cat, and felt that she had misunderstood something. Idiot. He Zi's mouth twitched. Haha, I'm kidding. Yan Xiaoling saw the cat jump off the bed and run out of the dormitory. Box, is this your cat? No, we can't have pets in the dormitory. I think it's owned by a teacher in the teacher's dormitory, but it often comes to see me. Hezi's expression softened and her eyes sparkled when she mentioned the cat. How did you know it? Yan Xiaoling climbed down from the bed and asked curiously. Hezi recalled and smiled. It's fate. I was the first one to come to the dormitory, and I didn't know why it ran in. It was trapped behind the cupboard over there, and kept meowing. So I dug and dug and dug. I even wanted to tear the bed apart. And then? You moved the bed and saved it? Yan Xiaoling asked excitedly. Hezi was stunned for a few seconds and smiled embarrassedly. No, it jumped out by itself before I moved it. I spent so much effort and wasted so much time sleeping. Why did I do that? Yan Xiaoling frowned and nodded solemnly. She walked to Hezi and patted her shoulder to comfort her. I think we can be good friends. After washing up, Yan Xiaoling, Hezi, and Mu Jinyan rushed to the martial arts club. They had never seen Chen Yuni, another student in the dormitory. According to the counselor, she seemed to be sick and had taken a leave of absence. She wouldn't come to see them until she was cured. Due to the existence of 2 dance stage fighters and the outstanding performance of the previous semester, the martial arts club had not only recruited many freshmen, but also a group of sophomores and juniors. The stadium was filled with people, and the situation was even better than last year. It's so crowded. Yan Xiaoling looked around excitedly. At this moment, her eyes lit up when she saw Yan Zhika in a white martial arts suit. Did you see her? That senior is so pretty. Even prettier than when I saw her on TV. Yan Xiaoling pointed out to Hezi and Mu Jinyan in surprise. Yes. Hezi glanced at her and nodded. I want to take a picture of her. Yan Xiaoling whispered excitedly. Just then, she saw the fresh and beautiful Yan Zhika turn her eyes and slowly walk towards her. The closer you are, the prettier you are. Yan Xiaoling said with a smile, but suddenly stopped because she found that Yan Zhika was walking toward her. Looking for me? What for? In her surprise and anxiety, she saw Yan Zhika stop in front of her, so she said nervously, Hello, senior sister. What's the matter? Yan Zhika smiled. Hello, little Changya. Ah, little Changya? Little Changya. Yan Xiaoling was stunned at first, then her mouth opened wide, as if she had turned into a confused cat. She suddenly felt that she didn't know the beautiful senior in front of her. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.